Hello, Outposters, and welcome to my discussions with Fuloydo. How you
Hi.
doing?
I'm doing well, I think.
Good.
Slightly hungover.
Well, we did drink a lot again yesterday, and that's always a problem. You can see I've not even fixed my hair or nothing. I don't care. So, what we did. So last time we talked about Lord of the Rings.
Last time we talked about Lord of the Rings.
Because you are an asshole and you made me watch
I
the
am an
entire
asshole.
entire extended edition. So now I have made you watch the entire sequel trilogy plus Rogue One.
Plus Rogue One.
Yes, and we did take a lot of notes this time. We pooped out on Rogue One,
Yeah, no notes on Rogue One.
but I think it was the last one we watched, so we should be able to figure out what we talked about.
Well, my vague recollection of Rogue One was that it was pretty meh. It was.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
Can you remember any of the characters' names?
No.
There you go. So that's my problem with Rogue One.
The only character that it really stands out in my mind. Well, I guess there were two of them. One was the blind kung fu wannabe Jedi.
Yeah.
And the other was the guy following him around with the machine gun.
Okay. The only one that sticks out that I can remember is the robot K2SO.
Oh yeah, him.
Yeah. But again, it's like there's nothing emotionally there to connect to. So
And I know Vader was in it.
yeah, Vader was in it. I mean, I admit I really love the ending. I love I'm definitely going to have to turn down that sound a little bit. Yeah, we started talking about Rogue One. Hey, look, it's a discussion. We
It's
can
a discussion.
talk about whatever we want. It's fine. We have our little Star Wars guys out here. I've got my coffee, so I'm happy. And
I already drank my coffee.
yeah, well, I had to set up all this shit, so
I sat here and drank coffee and supervised.
that's right. Very good supervising. So what do you want to start with Rogue One, or do you want to start with, because that's the last one, and then we got notes for the other stuff.
Well, as I was saying, I don't really remember anything about Rogue One that stands out in my mind as it being super great movie, but by the same token, I don't remember anything about it being super bad. It was a movie.
So and to reiterate, you and I are pretty big Star Wars fans. I'm obviously more of a
Yeah.
Star Wars fan.
I
I'm
kinda-
like you with Lord of the Rings. And you had seen The Force Awakens, and you hadn't watched a single one of the sequel or
Correct. After I saw Force Awakens, I was like, yeah, I'm out.
You're out. Okay. And you saw that like 5 years ago.
When it came out.
When it came out. So that
Well, when it came out, when it was released on Blu-ray.
okay, so
I
that's
don't
about
go-
5 years ago.
I don't go to theaters anymore. I prefer to watch them on my big screen here.
Yeah, a
And
lot of people are like that, tired of the distractions and all that shit.
I
so-
bought the Blu-ray of Force Awakens pretty much the day it came out.
Okay.
Brought it home. I don't know that I watched it that day, but within a reasonable amount of time, I had put it in the player and watched it. And I was just, okay, if that's where they're going with Star Wars, I'm done. And I didn't pay any attention to any of the rest of them.
Okay, so with Rogue One, we'll start with that one, and then we'll go into the sequel trilogy.
Okay.
We'll keep those all together. So with Rogue One, it's a Star Wars standalone story, and that they were going to do one every other year. And I can tell you the history. Rogue One did well.
Okay?
Force Awakens is the current domestic box office ruler,
Okay.
and probably will be for a long time, thanks to the disruption of the
Right.
market. But the
I think theaters are dead, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, they'll never be the same. Whether they're dead or not, I'm not sure. I think there is a pent-up demand to go out again, just in general. People like going out to the theater, stuffing their faces with popcorn, and just being outside the house. And theater is an easy way to just
Yeah.
get away from it all.
How many of them have gone out of business or are going out of business?
Well, that's the question, right? And I think there'll be some capital investment or something that will get them back, and hopefully the studios will actually buy the theaters and cut out the middleman. As I understand it, there was a Supreme Court ruling for a long time where it was an antitrust thing, and I
Right.
think that's been removed
Okay.
because it really doesn't make sense when Disney owns their own streaming company. So
Yeah, it was back in the 50s?
40s, I think.
40s.
40s or even 30s maybe, but I'm pretty sure it was the 40s.
Yeah, it was the theaters owned, excuse me, the theaters were owned by the big studios.
Right.
And like you said, somebody bitched, and the Supreme Court stepped in and made them divest themselves from their theaters. And I don't remember when. You are correct. I remember seeing this, but I don't know when it happened. That
I don't know either. I was kind of surprised when I saw that perhaps some studios are buying some theaters now.
yeah,
So to me, it makes sense anymore. I think the issue comes in where Paramount won't let any of Disney stuff in their movie
Right.
theater. I'm I guess that's a problem, but I mean, you could make smaller theaters and more of them, and you just go to the Paramount or you go to the Disney theater. Who cares?
or you could just
Or
Yeah.
stay at home and watch. Yeah, because now they're releasing them on HBO Max. Wonder Woman 84 came right out on HBO Max. And thank God it did, because I'm glad I didn't waste money on that.
But which studio was it that basically has already committed to releasing all of their major
Warner, I think.
Yeah, Warner.
I think they're going to put most of their stuff on
all
HBO Max.
all through 2021. It's all going straight to.
HBO Max, yeah. So, but I can tell you, my wife, she's like, I don't want to sit here and watch it. I want to go to the theater. I think there's a lot of people that just the mystique of the theater, all that. So I think there will be a market there. It's just, what's it going to look like after COVID finally becomes less of a thing and we're not wearing masks all the time anymore. That's the other thing. I mean, how many people are going to want to go to theaters and are too scared of somebody coughing, and then they flip out the theater? It'll be like,
Oh my God, he coughed!
yeah, it'll be like a Donald Sutherland at the end of Bison. So anyway, Rogue One.
Rogue One. I
We want to talk about anything else at this point.
it's so unmemorable.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
It was exciting to watch it. Now, keep in mind, when you're starved for Star Wars at the time, and I'm watching the ending, and they're hitting me with the actual actors. They've put in
Yeah.
the actual actors for Red Leader and Gold Leader.
Right.
And I didn't need to see the two dudes from the Tatooine Cantina.
oh yeah.
That was dumb. That was so stupid fan service. I didn't need to see that. I like the look of it better than the sequels.
Yeah.
I don't know what the photography or the way
it looked more real.
it looked more real than any of the sequels do, for whatever reason.
The sequels all have this.
Maybe it's the color palette, a lot more browns,
Maybe.
a lot less bright colors.
But yeah, it's got a more of a realism
Yeah,
to it.
and I think they wanted that because they wanted to make it like a war movie, which
Yeah.
it certainly has
Yeah.
kind of that.
It's got that vibe going.
I look at it as if you just say fuck it and just watch the last third of the movie,
Yeah.
it's a fun fan film.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But if you're trying to remember, I mean, you remember the blind guy. Do you remember his name?
No.
No, I don't either. And when they say it, because everybody has an accent, because we can't have white people in
No,
Star Wars anymore. Can't have Americans in Star Wars anymore. I mean, was there an American in any of the group? Now that I think about it.
Well,
Jyn Erso had an English accent.
I would say that he was probably American, but he wasn't white. Finn,
Who?
the black guy, not in Rogue One.
No, no. I'm just talking about in Rogue
How
One.
about just Rogue One?
There wasn't an American accent anywhere. Maybe some background characters in the Rebel Alliance, and then sticking in the old characters from the 70s. That was the only American white people we could find. We had to dig them up off the fucking cutting room floor and shove them into the movie.
There weren't any.
There weren't any. So you couldn't So when they would
Maybe-
say these weird names, and then they say them with an accent, I wasn't sure if they were saying.
Maybe some of the Imperials.
Oh yeah, of course the Imperials, the bad guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even they were mostly English.
Yeah.
And it's not that I mean, I don't really care that much that they aren't Americans, but I do care when they say these bizarre alien names, and then they have to
And
do it through their
none
accent.
of them pronounce it the same way.
Yeah, and so I know you were struggling because you're older,
I'm older.
and you had it cranked up pretty loud, and you're still going, "What did he say? What was that name? I don't know."
We should have had subtitles turned on.
It almost had to on some of it. But I don't think it's all you. It is like
But
cutting through a fog.
I honestly, beyond the bare bones, I know it had to do with getting the plans for the Death Star.
Yeah.
Beyond that bare statement, I couldn't tell you. I could not recite the plot back to you. Beat for beat, what happened. I don't know.
Well, I mean that's the problem because you have nobody. Nobody has like Jin. I remember her name because she was in so many of the trailers and everything. Jin Erso, the girl.
Yeah, the little girl, and that
Yeah.
that was a point that really made no sense to me. The dad put a backpack on her and said go, and then the next time we see her, it's what 15, 20 years later.
Well, part of it was you kept talking to me about something like Nero Wolf or
Yeah.
yeah, but that just kind of shows how disinterested you were in this movie.
It did not grab me.
No, and it's one of those that
I like you said about the last third of it started getting interesting.
yeah, because you're seeing, oh, I know that ship, oh, I know a Star Destroyer, I know an X-wing. Those are TIE fighters. I know those. Look, an AT-AT Walker. I know those. That's really, I mean, those are the only things you can latch onto.
When the Death Star finally showed up
Yeah.
and started shooting things, that's when it got interesting to me.
That was like the last 5 minutes of the movie.
No, it was more than that.
Or are you talking about when they hit Jeddah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although that was a plot point that I guess I kind of just went, okay, but it made no sense to me. Is why did they need these lightsaber crystals to build the Death Star?
That's what powers the lasers.
If you say so.
Look, man, I don't kill the messenger, man. This is what they write.
I know.
This is
You
what they
didn't
tell
write
me.
it.
I'm just
That just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. We're gonna go to the Jedi planet and steal all the Jedi stuff to build our super death thing.
well, they're all dead. They're not using it anymore. What's the problem? I mean, did you see the place? All the statues are laying around. Clearly, they haven't had the maid over in quite a while.
Well, Luke might want it.
Oh, fuck him. Besides, at this point, he was still
Yeah.
whining about going to Tashi Station to
We
pick up
know,
some power
but
converters.
he might have, once Ben got him straightened out. Anyway, yeah, Rogue One. It was meh.
It was meh.
It was. I could have spent that time sitting there eating popcorn and watching the cool stuff explode on the screen, but it made no lasting impression.
I would agree, and I think that it's just now we didn't watch Solo,
No.
and I honestly think it may be the best of all the new Disney movies, and like I said yesterday, it's damning with faint praise.
Who did they have? What was the actor that played Solo?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Never heard of him.
He was in a movie that the Coen brothers did, and I really liked him in it. It was called, shit, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a mystery for old Hollywood,
Okay.
like in the 30s, and he played like a
'Cause I know that I would have trouble accepting anybody other than Harrison Ford.
other than Harrison Ford.
as-
He did fine. It's the movie. The biggest problems with the movie is one, it's shot through mud. It's too dark. It's very difficult to see what the hell's going on the screen for much of the time.
Okay.
And two, there's things that's like I don't care how he got his name. Like his name is Han Solo. Like everybody has a name. His name's Han Solo.
Right.
It's an allusion to him being a loner. I got it. But no, when he joins the Imperial Navy and they say, "What's your name?" He's like, "I don't have a family name. I'm alone." He goes, "Okay, then you're Han Solo," and he gives him that name. It's like, okay, did I need to know that? Do I care? I mean, why do they need to think that we want these explanations? We don't. So but other than that, I mean, it's a heist movie. It's probably the only one that there is absolutely no force in it.
Okay.
No Jedi, no Force, no nothing. And it takes place, I don't know, 10 years before New Hope, maybe?
Yeah, I do know that my own prejudices. Han Solo was such an iconic role for Harrison Ford
Yeah.
that I would have a real problem accepting any other face on that character.
I'm okay with them recasting if they do it right. And what I would like to see is they just recast the three leads
Yeah.
and do stories after the fall of the Empire, kind of like what they did with the expanded universe.
Right.
But they didn't do that. What they did instead was The Force Awakens. How's that for a segue?
That's a nice segue.
Thank you. So starting out with The Force Awakens, so we'll just kind of go through these notes and kind of remark on them here and there as we go through it. So we start out, you wonder who Max von Sydow is.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember who he was.
He was the old guy at the beginning.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
What did we find out? Nothing. He got killed and he was never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Thank God you got Max von Sydow for that role. Gone in the first 3 minutes of the movie.
Well, he was probably charging by the syllable, so.
So then Kylo Ren lands, kills the villagers. Finn doesn't want to do that, and you can tell who Finn is because his friend got the
He's the only stormtrooper that's
got a blood
got
stain.
any blood on him.
Yeah.
In fact, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the only blood we've ever seen in the Star Wars canon?
No, there
No.
was a little blood when Obi-Wan cut the dude's
Oh,
arm off.
right.
in
When
there.
the arm was laying there on the floor, there was a
Yeah.
little tiny pool of blood next
Little
to
blood,
it.
and that's probably about it. We did, however, see. Do you remember the old Star Wars drinking game?
No.
Drink if a single Ewok dies on screen and the camera lingers longer than it does when the Death Star explodes, killing millions of people.
Dude,
13 seconds, count them.
dude, as much as I drink, doing that would give me liver failure.
Yeah. So you had a problem in the size of things that crashed on Jakku.
Yeah, just in general, these big derelict hunks. You know, we discussed this at the time that those are valuable resources. You know, building a vessel that big, even if it crashes. Number one, if it crashes,
Well, as we found out, they're a dime a dozen.
well, apparently,
Didn't we? We'll get to that.
we'll get to that.
But apparently, Star Destroyers are just grown. I had no idea. A complete with crews, uniforms,
Yeah.
everything. You wondered. So we agreed. There's too much hand waving.
Yeah.
Why is this? Don't worry about it. Why is that? Don't worry about it. A lot of that. Why doesn't Finn have a name? They don't use clones. I told you they're taken as babies and they just give them numbers.
Right.
I think it came from the original TK421. Why aren't you at your post? You know, that was the.
And I just assumed that was his, call designator.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that's what they named stormtroopers. I thought that was just, the way he says that, I assume that was the sentry post. And so you would have different stormtroopers go in and out there, but you would call the sentry post TK421
Right.
because it would be more of a location. But apparently that's the stormtroopers' names?
Apparently.
Fuck your headcanon. I believe that was the
the ongoing theme.
That was the
of
ongoing
evening.
thing. Because fuck you, that's why. Whenever you ask me a question, I said, well, because fuck you, that's why. That was the answer.
That was the answer.
You still love single bioplanets. That's really all through Star Wars.
Yeah, that's all through Star Wars. I mean, from the very beginning, every
Yeah.
planet you landed on had one and only one biome.
Yeah, yeah. Even in the poles, it's desert.
This is the desert planet. This is the jungle planet.
Yeah.
This is the ice planet.
That's just fantasy bullshit. It's like you're all on Middle Earth, but you go to the forest, you go to the plains, you go to the mountain regions. Same basic philosophy there.
But at least that's all on one planet.
It is,
You have
but I mean,
multiple biomes from. But anyway, that's just Star Wars. That's the
yeah,
way.
Star Wars is not science fiction; it's a fantasy novel.
Right.
It just happens to have a lot of tech bullshit in it. Ships aren't made of granite. I didn't. So we both agree that the Falcon is apparently made of indestructipadium.
Yeah, it's
It drags on the ground. It doesn't have a scratch on it.
not a scratch.
It's
bounces,
constantly crashing
it's
through
crashing
trees.
through
It's
trees.
made of Nerf. I don't know if you knew that. It's the Nerf Falcon.
I mean, every other ship in Star Wars, if you look at it sideways, it explodes.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the Falcon.
Not the Falcon. Whatever
No.
they made the Falcon out of, it's pretty fucking amazing. Yeah, that always bothered me in the new Star Wars, that the Falcon just takes a beating, and it seems to be fine. It can get infested with porgs, and they're eating the wiring and all that shit. It's fine. Everything's fine. I went through all that crystal caverns.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. It takes away any sense that they are in some kind of danger.
As long as you're in the Falcon, you're
You're
good.
fine. You're safe. You'll take a shot from the Death Star. No problem.
I just now thought about it this way. The Millennium Falcon has indestructible plot armor.
It does. It does. That's why I was kind of glad it wasn't in the prequels, because then it never got
Yeah.
ruined. So Finn and Rey escape. So Finn got off with it's kind of a bad terminology. Finn escaped with Poe,
Right.
and they escape the Star Destroyer. They go back down to Jakku. They get separated.
Right.
Finn thinks he's dead, so he steals his jacket.
And did they ever explain how he wasn't dead?
Nope,
Oh, I mean, because he did get sucked down into that.
he was supposed to die.
He was supposed to die.
And apparently, Oscar Isaac talked him out of it, and so later on he's in an X-wing rescuing him. And he
I'm
goes,
fine.
I'm fine. I woke up. You weren't there. No ship. I just went and escaped. I'm not sure how he got off the planet. I'm not sure where he got a ship to get off the planet.
Okay. Because it kind of bugged me at the time. I don't know if I mentioned it, that where did he he went in that hole in the ground. He died. Why is he here?
I'm assuming he ejected. And I'll give him that, and then he fell someplace far away from where Finn, if they're using parachutes. I'll give him that part. How he got off the planet, and there's no explanation, and how he survived.
I thought Finn saw him.
Because fuck you, that's why.
Okay.
Hand wave.
Hand wave. Never mind.
You were wondering why Finn took the bottom gun
Yes,
on
I
the Millennium
was.
Falcon. So when Rey and Finn, they say the garbage will do.
In space, it wouldn't have mattered.
No,
But since they were flying close
on the
to
ground.
the ground,
I always thought that seemed silly.
he should have been in the top turret.
Well,
'cause
she
it had-
likes to fly upside down a lot.
I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. I mean, it said if they'd been in space, it would have made no.
You know why it's that way?
Why?
Because when she came out and she cut off the engines and they were falling back upside down, then he could take that shot.
Okay.
In order for that to work, he has to be in the bottom gun.
So she knew she was going to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She had a copy of the script.
Oh, that explains it.
Yeah. And she knew that was going to happen, so she needed him in the bottom gun. So they escape. So anyway, Kylo Ren is told what's going on and that they escaped. And that's when he throws a fit
Yeah.
and fucks up the panel. And every time that happens, the only thing is, boy, I hope that's not the panel that controls the oxygen on the Star Destroyer. Probably not thinking that one through.
Wouldn't you love to work in IT on his ship?
Oh, God. I got another help desk ticket from Ren. Oh, what did he fuck up this time? You mentioned that when Finn is attempting, so they go back to the Falcon, and the Falcon they're trying to fix it,
Right.
and he's trying to convince BB-8 to tell them where the rebel base is. That he's not really a rebel. He's lied to her, but he doesn't want to.
Right.
And BB-8 does this.
Yeah, he does. Looks at him, looks at her,
you were
looks at
like,
him, looks at her.
That's one too many.
And it was. Yeah, I mean, for that kind of joke to work, it's a very visual gag. I look at you, I look at you, I look at you, I look at you. That's it. That's where it should stop. And BB-8 went beep, 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 beep. I think again. Yeah, I
Should
lost
have been the
count.
rule of 3 is comedy, and they went to 4.
Okay.
That's. I don't know how many they went to, but
Well, I know it was too many.
it was too many. You were like, okay. I thought it was pretty. That's when we were not really into the liquor yet.
We weren't at all. We hadn't gone to lunch yet at that time. We didn't start drinking until we got back from lunch.
That's true. So we were completely sober. So you were already irritated.
I was
mostly
already
because
irritated.
you had no alcohol in your system.
Probably. You're making me. Well, actually, I'd already seen this one.
That's true, and I'm making you watch it again. But I look, I had seen all 3 of the other ones, so fuck you.
I know.
But
And I still am probably in. You probably still have one up on me because I made you watch The Hobbit.
it's true. All 3 of them.
All 3 of them. And
Extended editions. Extended edition.
extended edition.
Never forgive you for that. So, you also thought that Finn was a little too bumbling.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the way throughout the entire movies, or just in Force Awakens?
I think he got better, or the script handled him better later on.
Yeah.
But when we were first introduced to him, and I think pretty much through at least the first half of Force Awakens, he came across as too much comic relief and not. I mean, he was a freaking stormtrooper. You'd think he'd have some minimum level of competence.
I guess he was the janitor, from what I understood.
Well, he had a gun,
Yeah, I don't know if this was his first mission or something, and he
don't
just
know.
peed his pants and said, "I'm done."
I don't know, but he just came across as way too inept. Put it that way.
I agree. I know that Boyega was not happy the way they handled his
Yeah.
character, and certainly he really had. I mean, his arc in the second movie was basically the same as his arc in the first movie. And the third movie, he was there for reasons,
Well, they had,
mostly to scream, "Ray!" That's about it. That was his
Yeah.
whole shtick. Ray!
I mean, they had to meet their quota.
Of Rays?
Well,
of
of-
Ray scream?
of people of
Of
color.
token. Yeah,
Token.
people of color. Well, God, they certainly did that.
Yes.
And again, let me be clear on this. I want everybody to understand that we do not object to having people of color in these movies. What we object to, we don't care. It doesn't bother us.
Well,
But you put so many in there, and the reason why you do is because you think it bothers us. And that's insulting. And that's what you Hollywood guys don't understand. We don't care about having people of color. Just put them in there naturally. We don't care. When you shove them in there unnaturally, uncreatively, because you're trying to fill a quota, because you think I'm a racist, that's insulting.
we were talking about this yesterday. Look at The Expanse.
Yeah. Yeah, I started watching that. By the way, Critical Drinker recommended that. I started watching the first 2 episodes, and what I saw so far I really liked. I think you're going to give it a try.
I'm going to look at it. You said it was available on Amazon Prime?
Amazon Prime.
Okay. Yeah, I've got that, so I'll give it a look.
There's nothing in there that makes me feel like they're doing anything. Everybody is just, it feels mixed because it would be at that time.
It's
And
just people
and
are people.
yeah, and nobody acts, you never feel like there's no
Nobody's
Mary Sue's.
Nobody's putting down anybody else, and it's
Yeah.
just people being people.
You don't have to tear other people down to bring other people up. That's not how it works. Okay, so Finn is too bubbly. Ray, on the other hand, understands all languages.
All languages.
Droid, Wookiee. She knows how to do everything. She can fight
I wonder if she had ever met a Wookiee before.
on Jakku.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's nothing like a desert planet when you're covered in fur. Long fur.
Long fur.
I would say that No, I don't think she's ever piloted a ship before. She was dropped out there as a little girl, and she knows everything.
Yep.
Mary Sue.
Mary Sue. Straight up.
And you saw that from the very beginning.
Yep.
Okay. So,
Well, I won't say from the very beginning. I was convinced of it by the end of the movie, the first time I watched it, and that's one of the reasons I didn't bother with any of the others.
I don't blame you, but now you've been forced to.
Now I've been forced to.
Let's see. So Ray is a Mary Sue. Han comes on. So like when I saw the trailer was, this is before we see any of the movies, it's like they get onto that Millennium Falcon, he goes, Chewie, we're home. And that's like a really awesome
Yeah.
moment. That was peak Disney Star Wars for me. It has been downhill since that trailer. It has never recaptured that moment for me.
Do you remember let's turn the Wayback Machine way back. When the trailer dropped for The Phantom Menace.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that trailer was awesome.
It was. Except for, wait, is a little kid? Okay.
Yeah. Everybody
Then everything else
kid.
was like, yes, this is great.
Everybody was a little kid sometime.
Yeah. And then we saw the movie.
Then we saw the movie.
Is this Irish coffee?
It can be.
It needs to be. So, yeah, I know. I feel like The Force Awakens, that trailer was the peak of my excitement. And it's been nothing but disappointment ever since. It's been going back up a little bit with Mandalorian. I've genuinely liked The Mandalorian. But overall, nothing has really topped that. And when Han comes on the ship, what you realize is that he's basically doing the same shit he was doing when he was 30.
Right.
It was.
I mean, he's actually regressed.
He's regressed totally, and that's that's the theme of all these movies. They regress the characters
From where he was at the end of not Return of the King, Return of the Jedi, not Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, from where he was at Return of the Jedi to here.
He's pathetically doing the same shit he was before.
Yeah, he's completely regressed.
But at age 75,
Yeah.
it looks pathetic.
It did.
It really looks pathetic.
Chewie looked pretty good.
Chewie always looks good.
Yeah.
He's 250 years old. He's held up. But Han and Chewie, I mean, Chewie in these movies, except for Solo, which you haven't seen, Chewie is basically a pet.
Yeah.
He's a prop. He runs around, but he doesn't have much of a character. He actually has a bit of a character in Solo, which is probably one of the reasons I actually kind of enjoyed Solo.
I guess I'm gonna have to break down and watch that.
Yeah. I like I said, I wouldn't expect a ton. And there's things you're going to go, what? But it's got some redeeming qualities. So anyway, we get to Han coming on. That was kind of the whole thing, the resetting the characters back to where
Right.
they were, or even worse.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. Why didn't the Cthulhu monster?
Cthulhu.
Why-
Yeah, the tentacle thing.
Yeah. Why didn't he eat Finn?
The thing snarfed down every other
Yeah.
person it grabbed immediately. It didn't mess around. It just grabbed him, gone. It grabbed Finn and took off down the corridor with him. And like you said, you're saving him for later.
I think Cthulhu monsters are racist. I think they don't eat black people.
That
I
could
think
be.
that's pretty racist. He'll eat the white people, and he apparently loves Chinese food, but not so much black food. And
Apparently
I think
not.
that's I think JJ's got some questions to answer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Hashtag Cthulhu racists.
It's pronounced Cthulhu.
Hashtag Cthulhu. Hashtag I don't give a fuck.
It's not often I get to correct your pronunciation on something.
One thing we did notice, and this, once we noticed it, we couldn't unnotice it. And I'm sure this is something other people have noticed,
Yeah.
but I haven't really seen it. But basically, in Star Wars, if the door is
Well,
locked,
blasters are remotes for
For opening or locking, they're only a one-time thing.
Yeah, it's a one-time.
But if the door is locked, shoot the lock, it'll open the door. If the door is unlocked, shoot the lock, and it will be locked. All you have to do is shoot the panel for whatever you need the door to do.
Yep.
The plot needs the door to do at that time.
Yep.
People are shooting door panels. Once we started looking at that, it's like, shit, they did it in Rogue One.
Well, it started all the way back in the original Star Wars.
They did. Well, like the first one they did it, it's like, okay, they shoot the door, and now it's jammed closed. It's like, okay, it makes sense.
That makes sense.
And then after that, they didn't really do it that much. They had to, either R2 had to open the door, or Han had to try to hotwire it, which he fucked up, and another door closed.
Right.
They put a little bit more effort into it in the first one. The only time they shot it, but now they just shoot doors open and closed all the time. And just no effort. And that's really the problem.
No rhyme nor reason other than what the movie needs to happen.
Yeah. I saw this happen in the movie once, so I'm going to do it all the time. And there's no logic. Laziness of the screenwriters, we definitely saw about. Light speed in the hangar, so then they leave the hangar. So at the time, you were like, fine.
Yeah.
You didn't care. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Yeah. But you saw it then. And I'm like, light speed's out of the hangar. A couple of people get blown back, but then they're gone, and it's no big deal.
Well,
then Last Jedi happens.
The Star Wars universe in general, at least not in the film. I'm not into the EU, so I don't know what's been said in the books. But the Star Wars universe in general has never explained how the engines work.
I don't want them to either.
Yeah, I don't either, because if they explain it, I don't care what they say, they're going to be wrong.
Yeah.
But they're obviously not reaction engines, even though they look like, they've got the big rocket belt thing. But they are obviously not reaction engines.
They just glow.
They just glow.
And they get you from one place to another,
so
no big deal.
Theoretically, standing behind one when it takes off, if it doesn't fry you with radiation, then you're probably going to be fine because there's no big rocket blast coming out.
Right.
So
until there was.
Until there was, yeah.
There was in Rogue One.
Was there in Rogue One?
Remember she almost got blown off the rainy platform?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, he wasn't going into light speed then, so maybe it's different. And then...
And typically in franchise, science fiction franchises like this that have spaceships, your warp drive engine is separate from your just puttering around
impulse,
engine.
Yeah. So you can't Star Trek Star Wars. And that's why I'm kind of willing to give a little bit of a hand wave to shooting door locks all the time. It's lazy, but it's like the minute you start explaining any of this shit, you lose what makes Star Wars good. Star Wars is not science fiction. Star Wars is fantasy.
Star Wars is fantasy.
It's space opera fantasy. And you got to stay with that. So there's a lot of magic, force. It's space wizards, yeah. So you don't want there to be any explanation. Engines get you from one place to another. That's all you need to know. Lightsabers work, whatever. But then they ruin that in Last Jedi, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
When Han offers her a job, I think both of us were like, man, if she took the job and it was just the rest of the series was just Rey and Han's adventures, that probably would have been a way better set of movies. Yeah, the First Order takes over, but they're just Rey and Han out there to some like 80s little stupid sitcom.
Oh, yeah.
Rey and Han, he's old, she's young. She can do everything, he's a dumb asshole. Yeah. Oh, you liked Maz yelling Han's name when E.F. Hutton talks.
People
when Maz
listen.
Kanata talks, people listen. Han Solo, and everybody just drops it.
They're all just like...
I did like, so then they go back to Kylo praying to his grandfather's helmet.
Right.
And the one thing I did kind of like that they really, I don't know, I mean, I guess they kind of did, but it didn't really, again, nothing was executed competently in any of this, but there were some good ideas. I like the idea of a dark side guy being tempted by the light side rather than the other way around. I mean, it's an easy reversal, I suppose, but I think there's something there.
Well, I look back to Empire, when Yoda is training Luke, and they have that conversation where Luke asks Yoda, "Is the dark side more powerful?" And Yoda's like, "No, easier it is." You know,
And then we get to the rest of the Emperor is shooting lightning into 8 billion ships, and you're like going, Yoda, are you sure? You sure it's not more powerful? Okay, really?
like you never see a Jedi just mopping the ceiling with somebody.
Not like that.
Well, I'm talking about even like Snoke,
Yeah.
taking Rey and just
Just throwing her around. I like it when he whips that lightsaber around, clunks her in the head. Bitch.
So yeah, powerful, more powerful? No, 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 easier, not more powerful.
No, not more powerful. No, I mean, he's clearly got a bias, a conflict of interest there.
But I kind of lost my track with the point I was trying to make. In that conversation, Yoda was explaining why people were tempted to the dark side. It was because it was easier.
Yeah, and that makes sense. But all the things now that you used to know, because when they show the dark side being ridiculously strong, you go, well, then how's the light side stronger? I don't understand.
I said, I'm like you. If I want power, I'm thinking dark.
Right. Say what you will about Vader. That man made some good career choices. Got the cape, he's got the mask, he's choking admirals left and right. He's got himself a castle. That's what we found out. He got himself a castle. Okay. Sure, the burnt off penis is probably sucked.
Yeah,
But
they've got prosthetics there in.
yeah, boy, do they. Let's see. So the Super Death Star Killer Base. It sucks the sun.
Yeah.
And
I did not notice this the first time I watched this movie. You pointed it out to me yesterday.
yeah.
I was interpreting it as it was siphoning off a little bit of plasma, from, we talked a little bit about the Ring World and the super laser that
Right.
wrote into that. I was assuming it was working like that. And then silly me, I asked the question, why is it getting dark? Why would firing this thing make it get dark? And that's when you told me, oh, well, it sucked up the entire sun. And that's when my brain broke
That's when
just
you're-
a little
yeah.
bit. The entire sun, it's sucking it all up into this little plant. Where's it putting it? Because the gun hasn't fired yet. Where did it put it?
I said they use WinZip. It's compression technology.
And again, you
That's
can't.
why the planet turned into a sun when they blew it up.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. But again, you can't think about these things too hard because, frankly, and I said this too, if you sucked up all the matter of a sun and compressed it into a space that would fit inside a planet, you don't have plasma anymore. You have neutronium.
Right. Well, see, that's, again, don't think, not science.
I know.
But the other piece is that there is
Maybe they're storing it in hyperspace.
yeah.
I don't know.
There is a certain level of acceptance that you have with the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. The technology and everything, you kind of buy into it, and they take those technologies and they turn them up to 11 to the point
They broke the knob off.
they broke, and then then they set it on fire, and you go, okay, I don't buy any of this anymore. I can't believe in this anymore because they've gone too far with it.
Yeah, and
because everything's got to be because the biggest part of the imagination of J.J. Abrams is got to say, make it bigger. That's all he does. That's what he did in Star Trek, right? Make the ships bigger.
make it bigger.
And he's got to find a bigger enterprise than their
And
enterprise.
they fire that damn Starkiller base. Or are we getting? Am I getting ahead of that?
Well, that's just when they fire it, and that's when Hux is yelling out, "Fuck the Republic! Fuck everything! Fuck but good. Evil rules. Twirling the mustache so hard he's.
But I said this yesterday, and they fired it, and the people on the ship are watching it, the bolt move across. You know, it's clearly not even moving at the speed of light.
No. But it got all the way across the galaxy and blew up the Republic.
Yeah, it's like okay, they've got a couple million years before that gets where it's
I
going.
don't know where Starkiller Base is. Let's assume that they had hyperspaced the base to the system. Okay, so I'll give them.
Well, they did say later that it was firing through hyperspace.
Okay.
How?
I don't know.
Because fuck you.
I do find it odd that they go to a planet where Maz is, which is somewhere off the beaten path, one would assume, because Han didn't want to go to close to where the Republic is or anything because he
might run into the X.
might run into the X. And so but they can all see all the planets getting blown up from the ground.
And the beam splits.
That's like Spock sitting on the planet and watching Vulcan explode.
Yeah.
Vulcan has no moons.
No.
This was established. So, this is J.J. Abrams. That's why I think he's a hack. He put something together that it looks like Star Wars, looks like Star Trek, but it
looks beautiful as long as you don't look too deep.
Yeah, there's nothing deep in this. You didn't like all the blasters, how they're...
Well, again, this was a practical effects thing.
Yeah.
Depending on what they were shooting at, you might get a big boom, or you might get a little puff.
You know what the problem is that in trying to make things look more realistic, like in the original Star Wars, red lines are flashing all over, and there's occasional explosions or puffs of smoke, and that's all you really see. You have no idea where things are actually hitting. Sometimes you do, but it's very, very similar every time because you just didn't have the money to do it. And that looks better than with all the effort they put into putting like red dots into trees, burn marks.
That was the thing that really brought it to my attention. Was that
then you
scene?
They lose all the consistency.
Rey was running away, and the stormtroopers shooting at her. And when he would miss, and the shot would hit someplace off in the distance, you'd get this nice boom. But if it hit a tree right next to her, it was much more subdued. And like I told you, I've shot at trees with high-powered rifles before. When I was a little younger and more foolish than I am today, I had stuck a target on one and was shooting at it with an AR-15, which, as again I said, an AR-15 is not really a high-powered rifle compared to something like a 30-06. When I went to get my target down, I had shot holes all the way through a tree, yay big around.
Yeah.
So the stormtrooper hits that tree next to Rey with a blaster, and it makes a little red spot on it.
Burns it. Yeah, I know. I mean, blast, but that's the problem when they try to make things look better in this shot. And
I'd be happy
they're
with
very
consistent.
There's no consistency because they have 8 billion special effects people. I mean, you see how credits are nowadays.
Yeah.
It takes 10 minutes to run through the goddamn credits on a movie. And most of these are special effects artists. And so special effects artists, he's given a frame, or a small scene, and he says, okay, put in the stuff. So that's what he works on. He has his way of trying to say, I'm going to put this red spot here, I'm going to make this look good, I'm going to add some wood chunks here. And the other guy, he has a different way of doing it. So there's no consistency in how these things look. And so an individual shot, it looks very realistic for that shot, if you assume that there's nothing else going on. But then you get to the next shot, and it looks very realistic for that shot, but it doesn't match anything what you just saw in the first shot. And that's what I think happens in a lot of these special effects movies. And you start, because there's nobody that... I mean, this guy works on this shot in April, and this guy works on this shot in June of 2023, because it takes 2 years to make these, right? Mm-hmm. And, so nobody remembers what the first shot is, and once it's in the can, they got to move on, get the next one, because we got to hit a date. I think that's what ends up happening. That's my theory.
Could be.
But, Okay, so that's what we're seeing. Traitor. I wanted to talk about that because that's where the stormtrooper yells at Finn.
Oh, right. Where he yells
And
at
then he
Finn.
throws away his gun.
Yeah.
And we know that that's probably a good idea because Finn is a master with that lightsaber.
Yeah.
Having held it for the first time then, ever. And and then they have this.
Well, and stormtroopers are such wonderful shots in the first place.
Well, that's
It's
true.
Best to get rid of the gun.
Yeah, it's a waste of time. But there was a lot of the traitor meme.
Yeah.
And people love this stormtrooper and because he had this thing that would. I never understood what was the thing with that. I was like, what is the big deal? He's hitting him with a.
And why did that stormtrooper have that? Do all stormtroopers have one of those?
Well, maybe they decided to start issuing them because they found out it would be better against lightsabers, which makes sense now that you've destroyed all the Jedi. I just don't understand that. You did mention that you thought stormtroopers were slightly better shots in this.
Yeah. But we discussed that a little bit too. Like
Yeah.
at least in A New Hope, they were they were intentionally missing because they were wanting to let them get away so they could follow
Right.
them to the rebel base. But
then Empire and Jedi made no sense.
Yeah.
Although they did nail Leia.
yeah,
Got her in the arm.
you said nailed.
That's when Harrison Ford copped a feel on. Good for him. Okay, so I have a problem that is my problem only, and this is a dumb problem to have. It's just something I got to get over. One of the things they did that is probably correct
Yeah.
is when they use the stand-in lightsabers, they actually glow on set. They glow, so you get ambient light.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But then I've never really looked into any of the makings of or anything about these.
I just saw
movies
I just saw a few things
I just
here and there.
didn't
But I know that
care.
I know that the lightsabers now will put ambient light on the people that are using them. That's something that never really happened in Star Wars before, not
Right.
even in the prequels.
Right.
So it's one of those things that is, because it's never been a thing that you've seen, even though it probably should be, I'm not used to it, so I don't like it.
They changed it.
I don't like things that are different, as Mr. Plinkett would say.
That's right.
So I don't know. This is my problem, and I probably shouldn't be. I should like that.
You should like that.
I really should.
Embrace the change.
I should embrace the change, but it bothers me. Okay,
Embrace
I
the
don't like
change.
it. It's just I don't know. Oh, I did love when Rey escapes the chair. So Ren has taken her captive.
Right.
She escapes the chair because she automatically already knows how to do the Jedi mind trick.
Yeah. Where did she see that anywhere before, or is she just
She's Mary Sue.
this ought to work?
Oh, wait a minute! I remember. It's because fuck you. That's why.
Ah, of course. I should have seen that.
Yeah. But I did like the two stormtroopers. Like, fuck this shit. I'm out. He's losing it and tearing up. There's sparks and shit. They just turn around.
Well, that calls forward to another scene later when he's on his shuttle. I think it was even in a completely different movie, and he says to do something, and the one guy tries to
Yeah, he throws him to the side. He goes, right away, sir.
on it. The guy had serious anger management issues.
Yeah, he does. Well, anger is the path to the dark side. It makes you stronger, so you're going to embrace that a little bit.
I guess.
It actually kind of makes sense. One of the things I would say is that Vader was way, if he was an angry guy, he was way too composed. If you think about it.
He just knew how to channel it better.
Maybe.
He didn't waste it on inanimate
He
objects.
certainly wasn't afraid.
No.
And his anger was never expressed very well. If fear and anger are the path to the dark side, that dude was very laid back in a lot of ways. Kylo Ren being, expressing his anger, well, maybe a bit more chaotic, makes a little more sense to me. He would be feeling it, and that would make him more powerful. You never saw that with
Of
Vader.
all of the,
I mean, if you really want to be pedantic about it.
I know, but of all the Sith that we've seen over the series, which would be what, Palpatine, Darth Maul, Vader.
Yeah, they're all very well. You know, you got to give
Maul always used to look like he was pissed off about something.
Yeah, but that was just the paint.
But that was just, he always looked pissed, but he was still very controlled.
Yeah.
He didn't bust shit.
Palpatine, however, that dude was a happy guy. Yeah, he's always laughing. He's having a good time. I'm like, is this anger? This is the dark side?
It's good to be the king.
I guess. Tell you, you gotta love that dude. Loves his work.
Yeah.
You and I, well, we talked about Starkiller a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't like the X-wings.
I think I put it this way yesterday. It was kind of an uncanny valley thing. They look like X-wings, but this is an X-wing.
Yeah. And the reason being is because the X-wing has circles, and it's going to be kind of hard to see, but I'll try to put it. But if you look at the engines, there's circles. Circles.
It's got
on
four
top.
engines, and all
Four
four
engines.
engines
So
are
you
round.
have four circles here. In the new ones, they cut those in half so that when they
When they're
come together, it's one circle on each side.
Right.
And that doesn't look right.
Doesn't
There
look
is
right.
still four on the back. So I'm guessing that inside the half, there's
there was
another
also
circle.
some subtle changes to the geometry of the nose, I think.
Yeah, there is. The cockpit doesn't angle enough, things like that.
So
But
it's just very subtly different, and
the reason I bring that up is that I thought it was kind of like you just described the entire trilogy. Looks like an X-wing, seems like an X-wing, sounds like an X-wing, but it's not an X-wing. Looks like Star Wars, sounds like Star Wars, seems like Star Wars, but this is not Star Wars. I thought that, and that's why I brought this up, because that's really the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
Right there in the X-wing. Everything looks the same, but it ain't the same.
Well, do you remember my complaint about the Lord of the Rings movies? They change shit just for the sake of changing it. That change in the X-wing design had absolutely no effect on anything that happened in any of the three movies. But yet they changed it.
Yeah. I don't know. Why?
Why?
I don't know.
They had a perfectly good design, an iconic design. I
understood.
think
Like when they went through the first three movies, they would add ships. You start out, we have X-wing and Y-wings, right?
I would bet you there are tribesmen living in the Amazon forest that have never seen a video camera or a projector or anything, and if you showed them this, they'd go, "Oh yeah, X-wing." It's iconic.
That's right. Go Yankees. So yeah, I think that's really the problem with the entire trilogy. We talked a little bit about the Granite Falcon.
Yeah.
So this is the part where they do something called you can get through the shield if you enter at light speed.
Oh.
So you just have to time it right so you're already through the shield before you go back to sublight, which I thought was
That's when they took out Snoke's ship.
no.
No.
This is in the Starkiller base. We're still on Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah.
Millennium Falcon comes through and it hits the snow. It goes through the forest.
Oh, right.
Right, and then it slides along the bottom. No problems. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
To me, this is a J.J. Abrams thing. I think if you watched Star Trek Into Darkness, when they put the Enterprise underwater,
I didn't see that one.
you're better off.
Yeah, I watched.
But I mean, this is the kind of shit that he does. He put the Enterprise underwater. You don't put the Enterprise. It's not built for that. I don't care. And you don't.
Yeah, it would be interesting to me. We talked about this a little bit. It's much easier to build an environment for a vacuum than
Yeah.
it is to build an environment to submerge in water. Mm-hmm. Because in space, all you got to do is hold pressure for one atmosphere,
Right.
pushing out.
Right.
You go underwater, well, depending on how deep you go, you're looking at some serious pressure.
Yeah.
And what's the other point? Oh yeah, just how difficult it is to actually make a submarine go underwater.
Very.
It's hard to put an environment underwater because you have to take an environment, and that air bubble that you're living in wants to float.
I don't understand why he does that. He just thinks that you could just put anything anywhere, and it's the same with the Millennium Falcon. It just it can crash through trees. It can do whatever it wants
I mean,
because
it takes me back. There was a show, you may remember it, back when I was a kid in the 60s called Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Do you remember that one?
I
It was probably a
yes,
little
but I
before your
never
time.
saw it. I know
But
the movie you're talking about.
Well, it was a television series, but yeah.
Was it a movie too, or was it
There
just a
may have
television?
been like a pilot movie,
Okay.
but anyway, it had a thing in it that I thought was cool as hell when I was a young kid that had no education in physics and whatnot. The flying sub.
Okay.
It was a little vaguely aerodynamic submarine that could fly. You know, it could go underwater, and then when they wanted to go someplace fast, it would take up off out of the water and it would fly. The flying sub, cool as hell. Problem. Then I later, as I learned more about how the universe actually works,
No.
making something heavy enough that it can submerge, and then getting that same heavy object to fly is
You might be able to get something that can go about 5, 6 feet under.
maybe.
Maybe. That's about the max, I would say.
And as for flying,
I mean, something that could fly, that could go underwater, it would never get more than 5, 6 feet. And depending
Well,
on how it
it's-
looks, it may never get completely underwater. It may have
and
parts of
the
it.
other thing is you're designing a form for
Yeah.
two completely different environments.
It's a cool idea,
It's
though.
a,
will
yeah, it's
never
a really
actually
cool
work.
idea, but it's not. You're never going to make that work.
No, at least not with the technology we got now.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed on the Star Killer base is that everything feels small.
Yeah, you said that yesterday, and it does. It's like you said, they were going for it. Oh, this is so much bigger than the Death Star. Da 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 da.
The Death Star felt big.
Yeah, this thing you never really got a feel for that.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
I mean, I know they had the big trench that she was walking around, or the big whatever it was pit, and they were above a pit, but you never felt like they were in this big giant expanse. You felt like they were out of set.
You made a comment. I forget which movie we were watching. It might have been Rogue One, where the crowd
The crowd, I think, helps. Yeah.
helps, and like even on the Death Star, in the original Star Wars, there were people.
Yeah,
You know, when Han and Luke were taking Chewie to the brig,
yeah,
they'd be walking through the corridor, and there were people.
yeah.
You know, it looked like a busy place.
And they would do the matte paintings just the right way. You got a sense of bigness with the Death Star. And granted, they built some big sets for it. I don't know if they built any really huge sets for any of this stuff.
I don't think
just,
they did. I think it was all green screen.
I think it is too. I think they just set up on a green screen and then that affects sound acoustics. I mean, I know you can screw around with that. Are you done? We have, I think there's a lot of laziness in the screenwriting. I think we looked into that. Most of that has to do with Rey being a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Leia hugs Rey, not Chewie. That's something everybody's noticed, but it still is fucked up. She didn't even know who this person is.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's the will of the Force or something, but, come on.
What's this one note you've got here? We haven't. It says I'm in charge.
Oh, so you remember when they took Captain Phasma?
Oh yeah.
And he's like, I'm in charge. I'm in charge. Yeah. You want to talk about falling flat? The humor.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. And I don't know. I mean, I don't blame. One thing I want everybody to understand is that for all the problems I have with the characters, I really don't blame any of the actors. I
No,
think
it's
they
not
do
the actor's fault.
It's none of the actors' fault.
It's they say and do what they're paid to say and do.
Yeah, I even feel that way with Hayden Christensen on the prequel trilogy.
Oh yeah, he's a fairly decent actor.
He
If you
is.
see him in something else, and in the prequels,
He's not great.
stiff as a fucking
Yeah.
plank. You know?
But everybody was.
That wasn't him. That was the director.
Yeah, that was the director. That was the writing. So I don't, if you're one of those that gave Kelly Marie Tran a lot of shit on Twitter that she had to leave and that kind of stuff, you're giving these actors shit. Cut it out. They're not the problem. They're doing the best they can. I'm not saying that every actor does a great job, but
Now, if you want to get on an actor for what they say off the set,
oh yeah,
that's another thing entirely.
that's a whole
But
different thing. 'Cause
For what their character, you can't blame any actor for what their character does.
Occasionally, an actor will make a bad choice with a character, but for the most part, they do okay. And it's not every actor is perfect, but I
That was
mean,
something when I was younger. I had a really hard, when I say younger, I mean like kid into my teens and
right,
maybe even into my early 20s. I had a real hard time separating actor from character.
yeah,
If I liked a character, I liked the actor, and if I liked if I didn't like a character, like take for example, what's a good example? J.R. Ewing on Dallas.
right,
He was a complete snake.
yeah.
So I automatically hated the guy that
Larry
played
Hagman,
Larry
yeah.
Hagman. But from what I understand, Larry Hagman was a pretty decent guy.
Well, see, then you just need to watch I Dream of Jeannie. You
Yeah,
like him again.
I like him again.
Yeah, I hear about that kind of thing, and I'm like going, just leave them alone. It was not, they did what they were told, and like I said, not every actor does everything perfect, but
that's why
it's
I-
easy. Like there's a lot of Harrison Ford, obviously in Han Solo. There's a lot of Carrie Fisher in Princess Leia. Mark Hamill. So it's hard to separate because it's their choices of how those and their voice inflections and all that.
Yeah.
So there is that part of it. That's why it's hard to see a different actor in the same role.
But that's one of the
But-
reasons why I really hate it when actors do make an ass out of themselves, like on
I know.
social media.
Then they say something completely ridiculous, and you gotta go, no.
Hey, I'll give you a perfect example of that. There was one actress that I used to adore because I liked the character she played.
Who?
Whoopi Goldberg. I loved Guinan on Star Trek: The
Yeah.
Next Generation.
Yeah, I know.
And then she has to,
Now she's on The View,
Now
just
she's-
making an ass of herself every other week.
yeah, it's just, and I can't watch Star Trek: The Next Generation anymore because of the way the actors on that show have basically beclowned themselves in the last.
It does. Yeah, they ruin their legacies. Well, look at one of my favorite shows growing up, and one of my favorite comedians was Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
And now it's how much now this is criminal stuff versus just
Yeah.
making a bad opinion.
Yeah.
But now they won't rerun his show or anything ever. And how many of those actors, depend on those residuals that they'll never get anymore because he was a complete idiot. So I mean, these actors need to get their heads together. So Luke flew to Octo, and then Rey goes, and that's the end of the movie, right?
Right.
And you noticed, and we'll get to Last Jedi, but you said that we saw the X-wing is down in the water,
Right.
and R2 is in a corner, pouting, until BB-8 comes in and they put the map together and he powers back up magically. I don't know why he decided then, why he's been off all this time, but that's fine. Depression, from what I could tell.
I didn't say anything at the time because mostly I didn't think about it at the time. But R2 is a droid who, in the Star Wars universe, belongs to somebody. They didn't have anything for him to do all that time.
3PO said that he powered off after Master Luke disappeared and went into low power mode, which makes me think that he's just pouting in a corner.
Yeah.
He's just depressed and he doesn't want to deal with anything, and he's just sitting there. So once BB-8 brings the other part of the map, he comes together and they put the map together. So Rey flies to Octo to see him, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but we see that the X-wing is down there. And you wondered aloud, and I had never thought of this before, how did Luke fly the X-wing to Octo without an astromech? Don't X-wings need an astromech? And I went,
Apparently not.
it was one of those things where I went, fuck. Do they? They always have one. Are they absolutely required? Or, I mean, I could see it like in a battle situation because they do a lot of repairs and stuff, but do they absolutely need it maybe for hyperspace calculations? I don't know. So now I'm like, it's 4 a.m. I'm going, fuck, do they need an astromech? You bastard, why'd you do this to me? So
Well, it's because
now that's in your head.
I had seen this movie back when it came out, and it went completely over my head that R2 was not with Luke.
R2 was not with Luke.
I just, for some reason, I had
So
it in my head that-
it never occurred to me in all the stuff that I've picked at of this movie, how did he fly to Octo without an astromech? maybe he took a different one, and then he killed it, and its body is crumbled at the bottom of the ocean because Luke is a bastard.
Luke is a bastard. But at least his X-wing was kept well hydrated.
It was kept well hydrated. So that's fucking Jay. That was putting shit in the water. What is wrong with them? You don't put ships in the water.
Well, I mean, all the electronics on the ship and from what we've seen, maybe it's just the Falcon, but I don't see how it could be just the Falcon. Their electronics fuck up all the time. So let's soak it in salt water for 10 years and it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Everything's fine. I don't understand. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it happened in Empire. Why? Because he crashed. Not because he wanted to store it there.
Yeah.
And then it was down there for maybe a week, and then Yoda gets it out, so it's probably okay. He didn't store it down there for 10 years on purpose.
And the swamp probably was freshwater, not
Probably.
sea.
I'm not saying it did it any good.
Yeah, it didn't do it any good.
But he was able to, I could understand that. But it wasn't, that, like all of a sudden now we got to put ships in the water all the time. Why are we putting ships in the water all the time?
And even the X-wing, when he crashed in the swamp, the cockpit was above the water level. Luke
it took it a few more days before it sunk.
Luke
below.
had a chance to get out, seal the cockpit before it
went completely
under. So maybe the water.
When it went completely under, that was only for about 10 minutes, and then Yoda got it out.
Right.
So yeah, the whole thing is, but that's one more thing that I just got to go. Why? So we get to Last Jedi,
And it's not like it was even hidden. The water was so shallow. You could, Ray was standing on the cliff, and oh look, an X-wing.
Yeah. I guess there was no place to park it on the island. It was pretty hilly.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I mean, that's why they couldn't find a place for the Millennium Falcon. Oh wait, they did. Last Jedi. You thought your mother joke was very classy.
Oh yes.
Quite
classy.
Yes, that's the kind of Star Wars humor I've come to expect. Right there with Jar Jar stepping into poopy.
Yep.
You wondered why bombers are going down.
And that's
Let's go over gravity in general. So okay, before you start on your explanations, here's what they've said. Okay, nobody's really bitched about when the bombers explode that they start going down. Mm-hmm. But they have bitched about the bombs falling in space. Now, my contention was, look, if the bombs, either through gravity or through some sort of conveyor system, they're ejected. Once they come out, they're not going to just start floating off. They're going to keep going straight down because
Newton's
of
first law.
Newton's first law. That never bothered me like it bothered other people. Like, why do they fall out? Well, there's already gravity established inside the ship, so they would fall while they're inside the ship, and once they escape that gravity...
They're moving.
They wouldn't stop moving. So that actually never bothered me. I think that's an erroneous nitpick. But it doesn't make it any stupider. Or any less stupider, I should say. Because the bombers themselves are slow-moving things when we've already established that we have nice, fast, zipping things called Y-wings that bomb very nicely.
Yep.
So why are we using these giant, slow-moving bombers that get taken out like we saw as quickly as they did? And they're so close to each other that when one takes out, it's like Christmas tree lights. They all go out. So, I mean, that's my problem with the bombers. Now, you were talking about how there's a difference in gravity. We're going to get into the science section, ladies and gentlemen. Gravity in space works differently if you're in orbit versus if you're stationary.
Well, not
over
in
a planet.
Space. When you're close to a planet, when you're in a planet's gravitational well, put it that way. You're close enough to a planet to be affected by its gravity. Perfect example, the International Space Station is in orbit.
Right.
The people that are on it feel like there's no gravity because they are actually in free fall.
Right.
If they were at that altitude but not orbiting, they would fall. So, watching the Star Wars movies, plural, I don't think I've ever seen anything that was actually orbiting a planet.
No, it just floats there.
It just floats there. And it's established canon that Star Destroyers can come all the way down into the atmosphere and float there perfectly fine.
We saw that in Rogue One, right
Yeah.
above that city.
So they're probably just floating up wherever above where they want to be, in which case there is going to be gravity. If their engines cut out or whatever, they're going to come down.
Right.
They're not going to just keep orbiting.
Right.
So in that scenario, the bombers work fine. They release the bombs, they're in a gravity field, the bomb's going to go down because
Right.
they're not in free fall. They're not orbiting.
Right.
Same thing with when the bombers get destroyed and they start falling. That's why they're falling. They're in a gravity field. They're not in orbit.
Correct.
If
They're
they-
moving forward, but
They're
not
moving
moving
forward, but they're not moving forward at orbital speed.
Yes, they're just floating there. At least we're going with a lot of assumptions here.
Yeah.
But given the
I'm making
situation of-
assumptions to make the scene work.
Well, and given that we have so many ships coming in from different angles, orbital speeds and orbital trajectories just wouldn't work in these scenarios.
No.
They'd be going in all different. They have to be sitting there
Yeah.
in relative spaces and everything to make all this work. So there can't be orbiting, from what I'm saying.
Yeah, that was a big difference between Star Wars and Star Trek. In Star Trek, they always were
They
orbiting.
orbit. Yeah. Star Trek was always more about the science.
Yeah. But anyway, the ships are not in orbit. So therefore, if whatever is holding the magic space field that they're using to hold them up, if that gets damaged, they are going to fall. They're
Okay.
going to go down.
So
Now things change if they're out in, like in Empire Strikes Back when Darth Vader's Star Destroyer was out there in deep space. They're not in orbit, but they're not close enough to any massive body. They're
they're not in a gravity well.
not in a gravity well.
Yeah, but we'll go by what was presented to us on the
Right.
screen. So it's not the bombs falling. That doesn't bother me. It never bothered me. What bothered me was the nonsense of these giant bombers, slow moving bombers, when we've already established how fast things like X-wings and TIE fighters
Those
are.
things might as well have just had giant targets
Targets
on
on
their
them,
side
yeah.
because they were slow moving, they were big, and they had basically
So, well,
No.
we took out the guns on the surface of the dreadnought so they could do it. It's like, yeah, but you didn't take out all the 80,000 TIE fighters that come out of the dreadnought. So it's really...
and the bombers had like what, one gun down there at the
yeah,
bottom?
one gunner.
to-
And you didn't have nearly enough fighters to defend them on your side.
Yeah.
You
And they
didn't have anywhere
obviously
near.
were armored about as well as, well, TIE fighters.
That's- yeah. So yeah, it's the bombers themselves.
Wasn't
and
that the thing about Y-Wings, that Y-Wings actually were armored
They were armored a little bit better, and they
Then-
had shields.
and they had shields?
So did X-Wings.
X-Wings had shields, but X-Wings didn't have the armor.
They didn't have the armor. They were faster and they had better firepower. Y-wings had better. They had the ion cannons, and they had bombs. They could bomb.
I remember X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. The Y-Wing was what you used when you wanted to disable an enemy ship because you
Right.
had to use the ion.
You had to use the ion
cannons.
cannons.
God,
So they
that
were
takes me
better.
back.
They were better for that kind of thing, and
And X-Wing, or excuse me, TIE Fighters had no shields and no armor, but they were fast.
right. A-wings were very lightly armored, but were extremely fast.
Right.
They didn't have the firepower.
Didn't
that
have the
X-wing.
firepower of an X-Wing.
So, but they were great for scouting or for that kind of thing. The point is that you have these ships.
They were basically using barges, is what they were.
Yeah, it was that. That's the nonsensical thing. Not the if you're worried about the bombs falling, that's not where you should be directing your ire. It should be that this whole thing is just stupid. It's just stupid type of warfare. And then
Well, that ship was just badly designed.
it was, but then the dreadnought. So then Leia says, "Okay, you've cleared out all the guns. Let's get out of here." And he says, "We could take out this dreadnought." I'm like, "Yeah, you could take out that dreadnought. Why don't you? If you can, let's assume that the bombers aren't a stupid idea, that they would have been able.
Yeah.
Then yes, why wouldn't you take out that dreadnought while you have a few moments? You're still waiting for everybody to get on the ship. Why wouldn't you attack it and take it out?" But Leia says no, because we find out that The Last Jedi is all about girl power.
Yeah.
Girl know best, and we don't have to tell you why. So let's see. We finally we get back to Octo where we find Luke. He tosses the lightsaber unceremoniously over his shoulder. Then he drinks the green monster titty milk, which you just find
That
disturbing
just-
every time. Everybody finds that disturbing. You're not alone.
And then the thing looks over at Ray and like, see what I put up with?
Yeah. And that stupid spear, he goes across and he spears the fish. What I don't understand is how he got that fish. I mean, the thing is like 100 foot long, right? What
Hand over hand.
lift it all up? They clearly said he wasn't using the force. He closed it off, so they'd had to be hand over hand.
Dude's got some guns, man.
He must. So then he sends himself to the most unfindable place.
Yeah.
You thought, why is it so unfindable? It's just another planet, right? It's
Yeah.
not like hidden in a nebula or something.
I mean, he's unfindable because nobody knows which planet,
Which planet
in
he's
the
on?
galaxy
It's a
he's
needle
on.
in a
but
haystack, but planet doesn't seem all that unfindable. It's got a nice blue sky and
Seemed like a pretty nice place, actually.
yeah, a little lacking on land, but
Hey, private island. And that was a pretty gorgeous island.
well, that's the problem with these movies, right? It's about
Yeah.
it's about the gorgeous, it's about the scenery, it's about the visuals, it's about dazzling you with shiny keys.
Yeah, shiny.
And once you get over that, which is pretty shallow, once you get over that within 5 minutes,
Yeah, there's definitely no diving.
we saw how shallow it is. Yeah, no, I'm saying it's a shallow way of addressing
Yeah.
a movie. There's no plot and everything, but
I was making a joke.
it's poor joke. You suck. So then they go back to the fleet. Leia slaps Poe, says you're demoted, because he killed everybody to destroy the dreadnought. Even though, hey, you destroyed a dreadnought, but okay, he's a big dick because everybody that was on the bombers were dead.
Yeah.
Welcome to war, Leia. You should know about this. You didn't
Well,
see.
yeah, that's the big elephant in the room, and we discussed this repeatedly last night, is where did the rebellion go? Why is it just this handful?
Okay, so yeah, there's some things I just don't understand, and I think they addressed this in the expanded novels and the, well, I ain't buying all that shit.
The
Okay?
novelizations, in my experience,
I don't even mean the novelization. I mean like you have to buy
Oh.
these other novels and comics.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not doing all that.
because I haven't done it for these, but for the prequel series, as much as I dislike the movies, the novelizations are actually pretty good.
Yeah, they help try to fix some things.
Yeah, and they expand a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just, book's always better than movie. It's just the way it is.
But the problem with the damn sequels is okay. So, Return of the Jedi, the Empire is destroyed.
Right.
Now, I don't mind in the Mandalorian because the Empire is vast, and that there's still a lot of pockets of Empire that they still have to deal with.
Right.
This was also true in the expanded universe. What was left of
Right.
the Empire kind of got shoved off, and they got weaker and weaker as time went on. But the Empire was still around.
Right.
They just weren't ruling from the core worlds, and most worlds were freed.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with that. But then we have the New Republic, which I guess is on the 5 different worlds because they all got to get blown up. And Leia is not a part of the New Republic. She's a part of the Resistance, which is basically the rebellion. I think this is just,
Resisting who?
well, I guess the First Order, but the First Order, I mean, I don't know why they're called the First Order, why they reformed into that. I don't know why there's a First Order, what happened in between. There's no explanation of what happened in the intervening 30 years. You kind of like, okay, well, there's no real explanation what happened in between.
Well, if you look at Rogue One, to go back for what we talked about a little bit before, but we didn't really press on this. The scenes inside the rebel base on Yavin were crowded. There
Yeah.
were tons of people in that rebel base.
Yep.
And that was just one rebel base.
Yep.
And then you were running into rebels all over, everywhere they went.
Right.
In this movie, how many are there? And
Well, I think by the end there's like 15,
if that,
and they had a full
they all fit. They
calamari
all fit on
cruiser.
the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, they did, but they had a full cruiser,
Yeah.
and they filled up many of those little ships. But I don't understand the state of the universe. Is what
Well,
I'm
yeah.
saying.
Well, and that
Before
was
Force
my question.
Awakens.
How did Leia get where she is? She was the leader of the rebellion. She was a senator. She was, like you said, she would have been the heir to Mon Mothma, and
Which she did in the expanded universe before they threw that all in the dumpster. I just what it really comes down to is they did not. They wanted to reset everybody back to position one.
yeah,
And so they had to break the universe and make you scratch your head to get everybody back pathetically doing what they were doing before. And then destroy those characters because we want to make way for the new.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with these movies, the biggest problem with these movies, in my opinion. That and then with Last Jedi, all the nonsense with politics.
they were actively out to destroy the old characters.
They were.
I mean, it wasn't an accident. They were actively trying.
And
I
they
mean,
did.
Rian Johnson basically came out and said he wanted you to hate Luke.
Well,
Luke was bad.
I
And the
mean,
Force is female. Never forget it.
that's right. Well, so they get out there in light speed, right? They
Right.
escape the planet. They go to light speed. Then we find out that they can track them during light speed, which is kind of like one of the big things about it was always the escape tunnel, and now that's no longer available. And I guess, I mean,
And they never explained how.
no. It's a lot of nonsense about how
I mean,
the lead ship can do it, but no other ship can do it, and then you have to stop the lead ship from doing it. But then one of the other ships will start doing it. But why can't all the ships do it at the same time? It's a lot of nonsense.
it's a lot, in A New Hope, they were able to track the Falcon because they put
A homing beacon.
homing beacon on.
It's the only way you can do
It's the
it.
only way to do it. So I had convinced myself there at the very beginning when they said, oh, they tracked them. Oh, they must have somehow snuck a homing beacon aboard one of them.
It would have made more sense if they had a spy on board, and if those of you who haven't seen it, we do a whole big thing on how to fix Last Jedi as best as we can, and we base this is where Force Awakens left off, so we can't just destroy Force Awakens.
Right.
One of our ideas was that there was an old senator that we thought was a part of the rebellion, but actually wanted to be part of the First Order and had lit up a homing beacon, but they didn't know where it was or who did it. And that's why they kept finding them no matter where they jumped. And the whole thing about fuel, when was that a problem up until now? So
When was the last time you saw the Millennium Falcon stop at a gas station?
never. So then when they get found, they realize they're getting found, right? They kick up their sublight engines, and they're just fast enough to stay away from, but not fast enough to get away. And so they just keep firing on them, but it's useless. And then they send out 3 TIE fighters, one of them Kylo Ren, to cause some damage, and that's when Leia gets sucked out and we get the Mary Poppins scene. Which you were less irritated about than I would have expected.
It looked silly, but I mean, it's established that Leia is a Force user. She just reached out and did a Force pull on the ship and pulled herself to it.
I agree.
I agree.
But she
that
is in space. I mean, she was floating out there as long as she was.
Theoretically, how long was she out there?
A couple minutes. I don't know.
Theoretically, I don't know that it's ever been tried, but
I'm not going to test this theory.
theoretically, a human could withstand exposure to vacuum for like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, assuming they prepared themselves properly beforehand. Like
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to try to hold your breath, for example.
Right. Well,
And
we'll go with the idea that she's
you remember the scene in
strong with the
2001
Force. Yeah.
when Bowman was in the shuttle and Hal wouldn't let him in? Open the pod bay doors, Hal, and I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. And
Right.
he didn't have his helmet, so he had to expose himself to vacuum to cross. That totally realistic. But
Agreed.
you're
It
going to be
is.
unconscious within,
And she was unconscious and woke up.
yeah, and she wouldn't have woke up.
I found, yeah, it looks silly because of the Mary Poppins thing, because of that big dress and all that.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't know. It just, then when she got there, she comes in through the same place where it was all blown out, and they open the door. Why didn't everybody just get blown out right then? That would have been awesome. Thank God the movie's over. What I didn't understand more is they send out the 3 TIE fighters, but then they
Right.
get out of range, so that they say, well, we can't cover you from this distance, Ren. You guys are going to have to come back. It's like, why don't you just send out 70,000 TIE fighters and blow
Yeah,
the shit
I
out
asked
of
this question yesterday, and I don't think you had an answer.
them? Oh, I guarantee I didn't have an answer.
But somebody out there knows.
What's the compliment?
Yeah, what's the fighter complement of a Star Destroyer? How many do they carry?
Well, they not only had the Star Destroyer, but they had Snoke's ship, which was
Which
insanely
was
huge.
insanely huge.
So my
That
guess
was
is
that was a Death Star that somebody laid on the counter and took a rolling pin to, is what that thing was.
yeah. So my guess is, you remember you had that little. We'll go back to Rogue One. You had that little shield collar that opened and closed the shield, that created
Yeah.
the shield,
Yeah.
and out of that thing came just hundreds of TIE fighters. Remember?
Yeah.
So you gotta, and that thing was smaller than a Star Destroyer. So you gotta figure with those 4 Star Destroyers and Snoke's ship that they could have easily sent out thousands of TIE fighters to go and blow the shit out of that thing. But they didn't do it. Why? Because fuck you, that's why.
Well, the movie had to
The
happen.
movie has to happen. So,
Quit asking questions.
I know. Then we get back to Luke investigating the Millennium Falcon and seeing R2. And that's when Chewie, we have the comedic moment with Chewie and eating a porg, but he can't do it.
Yeah.
And what was the thing that stuck out to you?
That was the fakest looking plastic turkey. It looked like it was carved out of wood and then varnished.
It's like, of all the things you notice, that's the thing that stuck
Hey,
out
I
to
like food, okay?
me. I
And,
can see that. That's a problem.
and that was not food.
Well, he didn't eat it, did he?
Well, that's because it had prop stamped on the back of it.
With all the money that you spend on this shit. When I looked at it kind of closely, it was like, yeah, it does look pretty bad. But
It looked like a Thanksgiving Day decoration. It should be sitting on a shelf in your
Yeah.
grandmother's house or something, because
it was so stiff.
Yeah.
Like the leg didn't
the
move.
legs
or
didn't
nothing.
move.
Yeah.
The surface looked like you could use it to deflect small arms fire.
Pretty sure you could. So then Luke meets R2. Kind of a nice moment.
Yeah.
R2 putting out the years ago you fought. He goes, that's a cheap move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cheap move.
You fight dirty, man.
I honestly, that doesn't bother me.
No.
I liked it.
That was totally in character for R2.
Yeah, it was. It was.
R2
In fact, R2 is probably the only one that's in character in
Yeah.
these movies.
Even C-3PO seemed a little off.
He did. Especially in Rise of Skywalker, and not just because of the memory thing.
Yeah, I can't put my finger quite on.
He wasn't as fussy and prissy.
Okay.
He wasn't as nervous.
I mean, the voice was right, the costume was right, but
He was his nervousness was turned down a couple of notches than it should have
Okay.
been. He should be more annoying. You thought Holdo looked like one of the capital city dwellers from Hunger Games, Admiral Hunger Games,
Yep.
and I call her Admiral Gender Studies.
Which works just as well.
Yeah.
She has a master's degree in gender studies from the University of Capital City.
That's right. Immediately she makes herself completely unlikable because Poe says, so what's the plan? And she says, fuck you, that's the plan.
Yeah.
You don't need to know, penis haver.
She was just unlikable is
Yeah.
the only word.
And I like Laura Dern. Again, not blaming Laura Dern. I think she's a fantastic actress. And I've liked her in a lot, ever since Jurassic Park. I mean, I've liked her in a lot of things. But,
And when she's introduced, I forget what character it was. One of the minor background characters, I think, said, the General Holdo from some famous battle, I guess, that the rebellion had fought, and they're like, yeah, it's that one. Like she's some really hot shot
Admiral.
admiral that's really good at strategy and tactics and everything. She's got a reputation.
That's right. Apparently not for uniforms, but
Yeah, apparently not for uniforms.
I mean, she's a terrible character, and it's very much what people have seen in line with the Catherine Kennedy mindset with women, girl power. We don't need to explain. We're awesome, because they think that's how men's leadership works.
Yeah,
and it doesn't.
it does not.
It's very much being good leaders are transparent. They talk. Now, it would have made sense if there was a spy on board.
Yeah, if there was a spy on board and they knew it, then yeah, don't.
Keep it quiet what you're
You
doing.
have no need to know.
But they established pretty early on that ain't the case.
Have you ever seen that? It's a graphic, a meme thing. I've seen it multiple times on the internet here and there. It's like a poster. One shows a guy sitting on a chair on top of a block being towed, like by slaves, pointing that way. And then the next, below that, it shows the same guy. I mean, this is all it's simplistic graphic. Instead of sitting on a chair on the block pointing, he's got one of the ropes and he's out in front pulling that way.
Right.
One's a leader, one's
a manager.
yeah.
There's a difference.
There's a difference
She
between
is
leading
that.
and
She won't talk to him. She's condescending as hell.
condescending as hell. They went out of their way to make her a bitch, basically.
Yeah, and I'm like going, and that's what they think is strong
Yeah.
female character. I'm like, no, that's a weak female
weak
character.
female
Who's
character.
too scared to tell people what, and you have to write, contrived moments that everybody says that she's strong and she makes sense and she's right, because we get everybody spewing dialogue that says that she's strong and she's right, but she's not. And then I don't know. I mean, at this point,
Carrie Fisher was a strong female character and a leader
in the original trilogy,
original
not
trilogy.
so much here.
I mean, if you want an example of a good, strong female character who is a leader, you can get stuff done. You don't need to look any further than Princess Leia in the original trilogy.
You want a visual for that works perfectly?
Sure.
When she is in Hoth
Yeah.
and the Empire is coming, and she's standing there, and she's this diminutive little gal.
Yeah.
And she's surrounded by all these big fighter
Big,
pilots.
muscly, burly
And she
men.
says, here's what's going to happen. You're going to do this. We're going to get people on transports, and then we're going to have 2 fighter escorts per transport. He's like, 2 fighter escorts per transport? And she answers the question. That's a reasonable question. Yes, we'll have the ion cannon fire and cover you on your way out. And he's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's how leadership works.
That's how leadership works.
When people have a question about the plan, you answer the question satisfying the problem that he has brought up. 2 fighters against a Star Destroyer is not very good. Oh, wait, you're firing the giant ion cannon behind me to knock out that Star Destroyer if it tries to come at me so that we can get away? Thank you for that answer. I feel confident now. You have given me confidence. She's tiny.
Yeah.
She's diminutive physically. And yet everybody's looking up at her in a way.
Yeah.
With respect. She
leans.
Holdo looks down. She's tall. She's taller than everybody. And they've put her in this dress to make her look even taller in a way.
Yeah.
She makes sure that when she is interacting with Poe, she's always looking down at him.
Yeah.
And she's condescending. The angles of attack are always that way, right? So they're visually trying to give you this idea she's better than you because women are better than you. And there's nothing in what she does or how she acts or how she tries all the problems that happened in the goddamn movie were her doing because she wouldn't tell everybody what's going on. Nobody would have gone to Canto Bight.
Yeah.
Nobody would have had, when Poe found out the plan, he's like, oh, okay, this may work. Then why didn't you just tell him that?
Well, the movie had to happen.
It's so bad. And this was the one that Rian Johnson wrote and directed. The other one, JJ directed, but he didn't really write, or maybe he had a hand in writing.
I think that man probably has the face that is the most punchable I've ever seen.
Which one?
Ryan Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, every picture I've ever seen of him, just bad. We can't afford to go to jail this week. Bad.
Yeah. So because he doesn't tell them anything, and they know they can get tracked through Lightspeed, it's like, well, we've got to do something to deal with the Lightspeed tracking. We're going to get out of here, because apparently leadership has no fucking plan. What would you do? Poe's reaction and in sending Finn and Rose out is perfectly reasonable given the information that he's given.
Right.
Because she's got nothing and she won't tell him anything. You're just supposed to trust her. Trust goes both ways, you dumb shit.
Trust is earned.
Trust is earned. And that means you want trust, you got to tell me what the hell you're doing. And she wouldn't say anything. So fine. We go to Canto Bight, where they do everything so stupid. They park on the beach illegally, because apparently there's no parking spots in the giant-ass casino planet.
Yeah.
Where did you wondered where BB-8 had all those damn coins that alien put in there?
When he's shooting, he's
not hollow.
That's a question I've always, going all the way back to the original trilogy with R2, he's constantly popping out various tools. From where? One or two extensions I can see, but, what's inside this thing? It's kind of like, he must be built like Bender on Futurama.
Well, even R2, it never really crossed to that point
until the prequels. The prequels, it kind of got...
Even then, not as bad. Maybe the flying around. Yeah. That was the one that probably was the too much. But the rest of it, I don't think was that bad. There's nothing that really stands out to me. But
anyway, back to BB-8, yeah. All those coins, and they weren't small coins, and there were a lot of them.
Well, here's the problem. In order to be a sphere that runs around the way he does, which I have the little one, the inside has to be balanced and has to have that magnet, and it's basically all of it is to just make it move. There has to be a
gyroscope in there.
It's all just to make the damn thing move.
Yeah.
So the rest of it, I don't know. Yeah, it's like it's visuals over style over substance.
Yeah.
So. You said and then when they escape the prison, they go to find the guy with the red palm bloom, and then they get arrested. And instead of going back up to find the guy with the red palm bloom, they decide to get the guy that's also been arrested, because that makes more sense. Because he got out, so obviously this is the trustworthy one. And they forgot they didn't even give it another chance. Like, why would you go with this criminal? You don't know if you can trust him.
They don't even know why he was in there.
They don't. And as it turns out, they couldn't. So dumb decisions. I tried to early on to defend this movie, because my natural knee jerk is to try to defend Star Wars, and I've gotten past that now. I've really gotten past that now. But early on, when this movie came out, I said, maybe this is about failure. And even Yoda, who you said looked weird.
Yeah, he just didn't look right. Again, the uncanny valley thing.
Yeah.
He looked like somebody tried to make a Yoda doll after watching one of the earlier movies.
I think they did. They did try to make him a puppet. He is a puppet, not a CG.
And they just weren't a very good modeler. They couldn't get the face
his lip
quite
curves.
right.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He looks like he's got gum.
He just does not look right.
But I guess he talks to Luke about, teach about your failures as well, which is not a bad message, to be honest with you. But I didn't. I try to defend this, but mostly it's not making a good decision and failing at it. It's making bad decisions in this. But, lazy decisions, dumb decisions. And then it's like, oh, we took out the patriarchy or the Canto Bight planet. We've done such a noble thing. It's like, did you? Does anybody care? I don't know. So,
Yeah, at worst, or at best, the really rich folk that they're trying to kick them in the balls with are going to be mildly inconvenienced because
yeah,
they're rich enough that, it's pocket change.
it's pocket change, so it really didn't matter.
So, and the people that you're trying to stand up for, the workers and everything, they're out of a job.
I guess because of Benicio del Toro's character, they were trying to say something about no good guys or bad guys, and it's all a big system. Which
Yeah.
I actually at this point am kind of agreeing with after watching all the politics of the day anymore. That it's just about pitting everybody against each other and cashing in. I don't think he's wrong there, unfortunately.
Can't
But
argue with that.
I mean, this is supposed to be a Star Wars movie, I guess Benicio is supposed to be a reverse Lando. Lando kind of betrayed them and then went on their side, and this guy was on their side and then betrayed them. It's all
Who
about
knows?
one of the guys. You've seen Red Letter Media,
I haven't watched them in a while, but yeah,
you
I
know
know,
what I'm talking
I know
about.
who they are.
so one of the things they did was because Ryan Johnson said this is about subverting expectations.
Right.
And the idea about subverting expectations is that if you're going to subvert an expectation, it better be replaced with something that is satisfying. And so they did this sketch where they called it The Wine Tasting starring Ryan Johnson.
Okay.
And it was a black and white film, and Rich Evans was playing Ryan Johnson. And he sits down at the table, and he takes a napkin, he puts it on his lap, and he takes the wine glass. He takes the guy holds out the bottle. He looks at it, he nods, and he pulls off the cork. He sniffs the cork, and then he takes the wine, and then he starts to pour it in the glass. He moves it 5 inches over, pours it all over the table, and goes, okay, subverted my expectations. Thought he was going to pour it in the glass. Was pouring it all over the table satisfying? No, that was stupid. I thought it was a brilliant way of showing how dumb this idea of subverting expectations are. If you don't have anything to replace it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If it's just making a mess all over everything, which is what he did.
Yep.
So both you and I agreed, and we could go through the rest of it. But quite frankly, I mean, I think everybody that's watching this knows how Last Jedi works.
So the only thing I'll say about the casino while we're here, I did like visiting it just for the visuals. I liked seeing all the different aliens.
I guess I just thought that they weren't very. They didn't. I like the aliens better in the Star Wars cantina than I did in these. That one weird lady with the spindly arms, like doing opera, whatever the hell that was, and then the little guy in the tux. I mean, none of it to me holds a candle to
And
Hammerhead.
the one, the little short guy that was putting the coins in
Yeah.
the BB-8 was an obvious Leprechaun
Yeah,
reference. I
Yeah.
mean, that was just
pot to gold.
blatant.
Racist.
Racist, yeah.
So, so then they get to Crate, which is Hoth. Let's face it, they just put it at the end of the movie instead of the beginning.
Yeah.
You liked how those ships left that beautiful red arrow straight to them.
Yep.
When
Just
they
follow the red line.
Just follow the red line and yeah.
Shoot there.
Shoot there.
You lead your target and shoot right there. Because
Yeah.
if you follow that red line,
So they bring in a Death Star gun because Death Star tech has got to be in every one of these fucking movies in one way or another. And
which movie are we on now?
we're still on Jedi.
Okay.
Last Jedi. And Finn is going to sacrifice himself.
I thought that was in Rise of Skywalker.
No. Look, I don't blame you for all this being fucking running together in your brain. I don't blame you for that. The battle at Crate where Luke dies with the salt.
Yeah.
And he fights Kylo Ren, but he's really just a
Yeah.
projection.
Okay. I'm so invested in the plot with the rebellion people running away from the ships. But that's two different groups of people.
No, it's the same people. They run away from the ships, and they take those pods out. But then DJ Benicio del Toro betrays them and tells them that all the ships are
Oh,
leaving the big
right.
ship. Now, how he knew that they were doing that so that they could readjust their scanners to see the little ships, I don't know. I don't know if they mentioned it or something to him or what happened there. But that's when we pull the Holdo maneuver.
Yeah. And suddenly she's noble.
Suddenly she's noble.
Yeah.
I'm just happy she's dead.
And like we were saying, if she had told Poe what she had planned,
Then there wouldn't have been any betrayal. They wouldn't have left. It would have been fine.
we wouldn't have a movie.
Well, we still have a
Well, yeah,
movie. It just
but
would have
yeah.
been a hell of a lot shorter, which I
Yeah.
think is a good thing.
Yeah.
So they get to Crate, right?
Okay, yeah.
Finn is going to sacrifice himself.
I'm looking at the notes, trying to. Yeah. That.
And then Rose stops him. Is there anything? Is there a more stupid frame or scene in a movie than her saying, "We're not going to kill what we hate, but save what we love," while the shield door is cracking open like an egg behind them because she stopped Finn?
Yeah. I mean, and I said this at the time. I was actually looking at a scene that looked like it was going to be a heroic. I was getting invested. Yeah, he's going to do it. He's going to.
Yeah.
He's going to actually be a hero, and he would have. Dumb bitch stopped him.
Again, not Kelly Marie
Yeah,
Tran.
not the actress.
The actress is fine.
The
Character is terrible.
character just.
Yeah.
I never really understood all of the hate that I saw online for Rose Tico. Again, not the actress.
Do
But
you understand now?
I understand now. Because I had seen her in. She was in the first movie, at least a little bit.
Nope.
No, she wasn't. Where had I seen her?
That was like her first big role, was Last Jedi. She was recently she did a voice in some, maybe it was Soul?
I must have seen her in a trailer or something.
Yeah.
Because
She's doing other things
I knew
now.
what she looked like, and I kind of vaguely sort of knew what her role in the.
I wish her all the success in the world. I
But
don't
that scene, I found her mildly annoying throughout most of the movie. That scene, she went from mildly annoying to what a dumb bitch.
At that point, it's like, is she the spy?
Yeah.
So then Luke does his thing.
Luke does his thing.
What'd you think of that whole idea? Would you rather have seen him just come out with a laser sword and kick some ass?
Yeah, frankly,
That would have made more sense.
would have made more sense.
But they killed him.
Although it was amusing watching Kylo Ren. It says, "Fire every gun that we have at that man."
Would have made more sense. And that was the only thing he did that actually made sense. Yes, fire everything.
Everything, every gun we have, right there. And he's like, "More!" And I'd seen that meme.
Yeah.
But I'd never known where it came from. More, more. And then they stop, and Luke walks out of the
yeah.
smoke, and
Does this. I don't hate this. I really don't. I know a lot of people do. But I mean,
well,
the movie's
it's a psychological thing. He's doing that to piss off.
yeah, he's doing it to piss him off. And that's fine. It's just that at this point everything is wrong. So when something right happens in the middle of it,
Yeah.
as a consequence of making these bad choices, but that makes sense.
I don't know that I really agree or like, even if you want to put it that way, the whole force projection thing.
Well, you got to come up with you mentioned it earlier. It's like you got to come up with a new force power every one of these fucking things. So in the end, and how did the key? Okay, so how did the dice remain after Luke died? I don't know. How did the kids know the story of Crate the kids on Canto Bight, and the little Jedi kid that takes the broom. Was it live streamed? What happened there? I don't know.
Luke has a Twitch stream.
Maybe. So, but then of course those kids or whatever happened there was never referenced again ever.
No. Never saw him again.
So this you had not seen Last Jedi.
Now you skipped one of your notes.
What did I skip?
The big fight.
Oh, the big fight. Yeah, the big fight with the Kylo and where they were going after all. Yeah, it's a cool fight, I guess.
Well, we like the Cuisinart in the
Yeah, the guy falling into the Cuisinart and there's just confetti comes out. That was fun. And I liked him, just turning on the lightsaber, turning it off, and blowing a hole in the guy's skull. But I mean, again, it's just a fun action beat for action's sake.
Yeah.
That is.
It didn't really.
It doesn't. It's just fun to look at, but it doesn't really mean. It's like watching a YouTube video of some kids that want to do a lightsaber fight. They're fun to watch. You like watching the choreograph, but there's no real point to them. It's like watching fireworks, right?
And we got to watch Snoke die, which.
Oh, I guess he's not important.
Yeah.
That's right. There's so many things in this movie you go, well, I guess that's not important now. I guess this is thrown in the dumpster. That's the and I'm not telling anybody, if you're watching, probably doesn't already know. But I don't know what so you know, well, let me go back. You had not seen this before.
I had not seen it before.
This is your first time. When you got to the end, I asked you.
I pretty much kind of knew what the beats were,
right?
Because I had not gone out of my way to avoid spoilers. I had read reviews like Critical Drinker and whatnot. But as far as actually sitting my ass in a chair and watching the movie, I had not seen it.
So then you didn't know. So I asked you. I said, "What did you say?" And when I wrote down, "What did you think?" after the end when the credits are rolling. And you said, it's all so bad, you hated Admiral Holdo, you hate Rose, that there's no point to her. Those were the things that came to your mind, as I recall. But that, pretty much, it was all bad. I think you hated the Holdo maneuver. You hated most of the things that everybody hates. And I think...
It's not so much that I hated the maneuver as I hated what we talked about. What you said is she didn't tell anybody what she was doing.
She didn't tell anybody, yeah.
I mean, the maneuver itself probably would have worked.
It might have with a ship that size. It's just
well, if everything hadn't happened, the maneuver probably would have worked because they wouldn't have had a spy to tell the MPs what they were doing.
Well, when I say the Holdo maneuver, I'm talking about her taking the ship and running light speed.
Oh, okay. That.
So then that gets us. So I'll take a step back. When we were in The Force Awakens. And I noticed that he light sped out of the hangar with very little ill effects.
Yeah.
Right? And then I thought, oh, geez. And I told you, I says, okay, I want you to remember that. Mm-hmm. Then we got to the Holdo maneuver where she light sped through there. And that's when you were like, oh, you realize that Star Wars was broken. I could see it in your face. You realize Star Wars was broken.
Look at his eyes.
So now...
Talking about eyes. Every freaking Force user in this movie looked like they just got off of a 3-day drunk as far as their eyes.
I think the actors had. They knew what they were in. They knew how fucked this was.
They all looked like they had mono.
I can't get out of this. It's in my contract. I'm screwed. I'm going to be hated forever after this. Yeah, you could see their soul dying as actors. That's what you could see. So then we get to Rise of Skywalker. Now, within the first 5 minutes of this movie, this is where...
I wish you had actually had a camera on me.
I wish I had at that point. We decided not to film ourselves actually watching the movies because it was so much film.
Because this caught me completely. It blindsided me completely. I had no idea this was coming.
This is when the movies broke you. The light speed skipping broke you. Your brain was dripping out your nostrils. You were just sitting there. I watched it. I was like, you were like, what is going on? I never saw you so dumbstruck in all my life.
I like to think I'm usually a fairly laid back guy. I what?
The light speed skipping was one of the most goddamnedest things I've ever seen in Star Wars. You know, you watch the original and you listen to Han Solo lecture Luke about how you can't just go into light speed.
Not like dusting crops, boy.
That's right. You don't want to go through a star or bounce too close to a supernova. And, you got to make sure that you do it right. That's why we have these Navicomputers, so that they will get us to where we need to go without, killing ourselves. And we go through the right places. And he's just dink. And then, because we know space is pretty cramped, right?
Yeah, space
That's
is
why
very
they call
cramped.
it space.
You gotta, yeah. Every time he came out, he was in atmosphere or
Near buildings.
near buildings.
Or something.
He was on a planet,
But yet,
but
not in a
the
building.
planet. Or in it. It's just,
That's like hitting a hole in one
well,
from the moon.
it'd be like starting on Pebble Beach with a driver and putting on a blindfold,
Yep.
taking your best shot and getting a hole in one in Honolulu. And then without taking off your blindfold, or maybe you take it off for a quick peek, oh, wrong place, take another swing and making a hole in one at what's another famous golf course someplace else in the world. Yeah, it's just because I think the one that really
The Fraumora Highlands, that's where.
the one that really broke me was when they came out in an inhabited city.
Yeah. You were, I didn't know whether you were going to cry or laugh yourself sick or, yeah, your brain broke. We were well into drinking at that point.
Yeah, it just
Because Last Jedi, we needed the liquor.
does not compute.
I was like, which is, oh my God.
Abort, retry, ignore. It's,
Exactly. Ignore. Ignore. That's the only way. If you retry, you just got to watch that shit again.
And I'm glad that you didn't warn me.
Oh, I did not want to warn you of anything in
Because
Rise of Skywalker. So
that
Rise
one just
So before we get into the details, Rise of Skywalker is clearly oh God, we really fucked up with Last Jedi. Let's try to unfuck this. But you can't unfuck it. It's like getting pee out of a swimming pool.
It's once you've launched your virginity, man,
You
it don't grow back.
It don't grow back. So then they land on Fern Gully, the rebel base.
Right.
We called it Planet Fern Gully.
Yeah.
And Poe and Rey get into an argument about what happened to BB-8 when she was training, and what happened to the Millennium Falcon when he was light speed skipping. Every time I want to break your brain, I'll just say that. And at one point, I just said, "Oh, just fuck already."
Well, one of the things that we mentioned yesterday that we haven't heard about the light speed skipping, referencing back to the Holdo maneuver, if you're in atmosphere in an inhabited city and you go into light speed, there better not be anything in front of you, number one.
Apparently, that's not a problem anymore.
And you're going to cause a shitstorm of an atmospheric disturbance at the very least, number two.
Well, we have established the fact that the Millennium Falcon is made of a combination of granite and Nerf, depending on what is needed at that moment. So we're okay with the Millennium Falcon doing this, apparently.
Well, I'm not worried so much about damage to the Millennium Falcon as I am damage to the planet that they're
Right, that's
leaving.
that's when it's Nerf.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I never should have got that physics degree.
I
It makes movies like this 10 times harder to watch.
look. I'm telling you, it's because fuck you. That's why.
I know.
When Kylo Ren put together his helmet, and I was questioning that. I said, why is he just make a new helmet? Why is he putting this ugly ass helmet together with all the orange in it and everything? And that's when you turned me on to the idea of.
Did you ever look that up?
I did not look that up, but it's a.
You're going to look it up before you make the video or before you edit the video, right?
Sure.
Well, so you can show people an example.
Yeah, why not?
Because there's pictures of this all over.
It's right here.
Yeah, or here, or maybe here.
It's right there. The it's a way of redoing porcelain with gold.
It's an ancient Japanese art form.
Okay.
Where, they made these really fine porcelain vases and bowls and whatnot. So it was a real tragedy if you broke one. They were valuable.
Right.
And they came up with a way to reassemble them basically using gold for glue. And I said it's an art form.
Right.
You had to be really skilled to pull this off. But when you did, it made a porcelain vase or bowl or whatever it was that was even more beautiful than it had been before it was broken, because it had these streaks of gold running through it.
So you believe that's what inspired the helmet?
That's what sure as hell what it looks like.
Do you think that helmet was more beautiful or better looking with the orange cracks all in it?
Frankly, I'm just going to have to take everybody's word for it that it's the same helmet, because the face of it, I mean, even without the orange cracks and whatnot, it looked different to me.
Well, obviously it's not the same helmet
Yeah.
in real life. They built a new one, but we're assuming
We're
that's
assuming.
what they did. He took the old helmet, he put it back together.
Yeah.
Fine. Why?
The only thing I could come up with was basically a fuck you to Snoke. Because you remember remember the line that Snoke told him, he was just a child wearing a funny mask or whatever. I forget the exact wording.
Oh, and let's go back to the very beginning. We forgot about this. Kylo Ren ends up on Exegol, where the Emperor is.
Right.
And we find the jar of Snokes.
Yeah.
I guess he's got some. Snoke was created by the Emperor.
Well, cloned by him certainly.
But why?
Maybe he planned on replacing him if he broke.
Now you know the answer to why.
Fuck you. That's why.
Thank you.
But that begs the question: the jar of Snokes, were they as badly mangled as the one that was?
It looked like it.
So when you clone somebody, you also clone
Their injuries from a fight.
injuries from a fight.
Yeah, that's in your DNA. Didn't you know that?
I did not. So I studied physics, not biology. So
Well, obviously you're not up on these things.
I'm not up on these things.
Jesus.
My bad.
That's science.
But
TM.
yeah, I didn't look close. I saw it enough to know that those are Snoke clones, but I didn't pay it, and it was so quick on the screen.
Yeah. I didn't get the jar of Snokes. I didn't get why. So all the time the Emperor, I guess, was pulling the strings. I'm like, okay, then why didn't he clone the Emperor?
Well, I think he did.
Well, yeah. Apparently, the Emperor that died at Return of the Jedi was a clone of the real Emperor.
Because I think there was some canned Emperor down in there too.
Canned Emperor. Just add water. Just add force.
Bad force.
Just add evil. Some of these are just for me.
I said chicks dig scars.
Yeah.
And,
For the helmet. Yeah.
and then there was a scene.
I was like, they dig scarred helmets?
Well, then there was a scene, if you recall, shortly after that.
Oh yeah, he's having the board meeting, and he's like, I see you've repaired your helmet, and the chick goes, I like it, sucking up. It's like, just suck
and it
his
was a
dick.
female voice.
It was definitely one of the women. Yeah,
told you,
like,
chicks dig scars, man.
Just suck his dick already, God. And so he comes back to. So then we get past the light speed skipping. Then we go back to Ren. Ren says, "I've talked with the Emperor. He's got all these Star Destroyers, which apparently are grown right out of the ground. They came. Why are they coming out of the ground? What is going on?
Oh.
Where did he get all these? Where did all these people come from? What is happening?"
Yeah, I don't understand why they would be in the ground. Honestly, I thought they were underwater, but underground. Okay.
Underground. They came out of the ground.
Why would you put them there? Trying to hide them? I thought the entire planet was basically
Evil.
evil and hidden. So, who are you hiding them from?
I don't know. And if that's where your building yard is, you'd think you would have a door, maybe? A
Maybe.
hatch?
A small one,
something.
Star Destroyer size.
Yeah.
They come out one at a time.
And then the insane amount of Star Destroyers all lined up.
You would have to
There
strip
had to be what,
mine.
500, 600. Okay, granted, this is a place that builds Death Stars. This is a universe that builds Death Stars. They
Yeah.
hollow out planets. We're going to assume that resources are not an issue. But as far as just looking ridiculous, I mean,
But you would have to strip mine to the core a planet,
many planets.
many planets, to build that many massive.
And the people, where'd they get all the
Yeah, where do they get all the people?
uniforms? You got to feed them.
And that did not look like a planet conducive to agriculture.
No. No. I think this the lightning, constant lightning alone. So, okay, so then they're having the thing, they're having the board meeting. The one chick sucks his dick about the helmet. And then another, and he says, we got the Emperor's back. I'm going to work with him. Not working for him, but I'm going to work with him. We're going to use him. And the one guy starts asking some very reasonable, logical questions about, well, what does he want in return? Are we sure we can trust him? Do we really want to gets him thrown to the ceiling and choked? I'm like, I feel like these are reasonable questions.
Well, it all comes back to leadership. We talked about Admiral Holdo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can understand it on the evil side. But yeah, dumb.
It's basically because fuck you. That's why. Only that's Kylo
Well,
talking to his subordinates.
Do you remember in the original Star Wars when the one high-ranking general, admiral, General Tag, I think, he's saying, look, the rebellion is more well-equipped than you realize. This is an amazing station, but we need to, and the other guy's going, don't be such a pussy. They're not a. Well, the guy that was being a dumbass and was underestimating the rebellion was the guy that got choked. Yeah, not the guy who's saying, "Hey, we need to be prepared. We need to think about things. We don't know if the plans are stolen. We don't know what they'll find."
It was.
Now the people that ask the reasonable questions get choked on the ceiling.
And then in the same movie, I don't know. I can't remember his name. I'm sure he had one because he had dialogue. Mm-hmm. The officer that was talking to Vader, holding her is dangerous. Da da da. He didn't get slapped around.
No.
And he was talking directly to Vader about a decision Vader had made that he disagreed with.
Now, granted, I will say that in Star Wars, Vader wasn't quite Vader yet. He wasn't. He really didn't become Vader that we all know until Empire. So
Yeah.
I'll give them that to a certain extent. But even in Empire, as scared as they were of them, I mean, they generally told Vader when things were going wrong. They did, and Vader punished those who were incompetent, not ones that were doing a good job or asking reasonable questions.
I don't think I ever saw Vader punish somebody for asking a question.
No.
The only time he ever, choked somebody was when they
failed.
When they failed.
Which makes sense.
And when
harsh,
when
but makes sense.
When they failed because of something that they did.
Yeah. So why? I don't know. Again, this is more about screenwriters that are lazy, don't understand storytelling. They only see, Vader choked underlings in Star Wars, so I'll have him choke an underling in Star Wars. So how bad
And
he
be
is.
much more violent about it.
Yeah, be much more violent. He'll do it on the ceiling because it'll show him. It's the laziest story writing I've ever seen. They don't understand motives and logical cause and effect. They don't understand any of that. So the team, with the power of friendship, decide to all leave together to find the Sith Wayfinder, because she's been looking through the books, and I guess they saw the Emperor, so they got to find Exegol. I'm not sure why they had to find Exegol. I don't know if they didn't really say why they had to get there.
Yes, that they wanted to go there.
that they wanted to go there, but in order to get there,
There had
they
been
have to find a thing.
There had been warnings going out about the Emperor was back.
Yeah, I guess, but why were they wanting to go there? Were they wanting to destroy the Emperor?
I don't know.
I guess. They needed to go find a thing to find another
Ray
thing.
wanted to go there
Yeah.
because she wanted to go confront the Emperor, and that was where the power of friendship thing came and going. I'm going too. I'm going too. I'm going too.
But she didn't really know that until she found out that the Emperor had killed her parents, and that was much later in the movie.
Well,
Guys, we just saw this last night. We don't know.
That scene where what we call the power of friendship. Ray said she was going to find Exegol.
Right. But I don't know why.
But I don't know why.
At that moment, I don't know why she was doing it.
She said she was going,
So
and then
if you guys know, please put it down in the comments below. I appreciate it.
all the other people were like, you're going alone. I'm going alone too with you.
Yeah, it was a Sam Frodo moment.
Yeah.
I got to go alone. Of course you do, and I'm going with you. So they go to Planet Burning Man,
Yep.
and that's where they run into Lando, because apparently Luke and Lando went out to this planet to find this dude who had the knife that pointed the way to the place where the triangle pyramid
The
hologram,
Sith Wayfinder,
the Sith Wayfinder, yeah, it's a Sith holocron or something like that. So they get to Planet Burning Man, and then they have to flee from some First Order who are running on tank cycles.
They reminded me of a backwards snowmobile.
Yeah.
They had this big belt for a drivetrain, and
Yeah.
it was on the front instead of the back. And
they
every
fly
other,
now.
Every other vehicle that we've ever seen, at
Floats.
least flies, or
Including the ones they're chasing.
yeah. But we're gonna drive.
But then they catapult their passengers with jetpacks, saying they fly now. It's like they flew then. What do
You guys have never seen a jetpack before.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. That was one that they actually put out as a hey, we're releasing a scene from Rise of Skywalker before it comes out, that they do for marketing purposes. That was the one they set out, and it was they fly now. They fly, like this comedic moment. It's like
I do know
everybody was like, oh, what
that was one scene that I was well familiar with before I saw the movie, because every reviewer that I looked at brought that up.
Yeah.
They fly now? God, that's stupid.
Yeah, they flew then. So then they get thrown off of their speeders, and they land in the black pit, the ball pit,
Yeah,
and they sink down into a cave,
into a cave.
which some reason has not
It's
filled
with
the sand that's floating above it for some reason. They're fine.
magic.
So that was fake out death number one.
Yeah.
We get down there, and they find the guy they've been looking for.
Immediately.
The one that apparently Lando's been on this planet for the last 20 years. Luke left, gave up. The dude's ship that they
parked
tracked is
right
still
over
parked
here.
there.
And still flies.
It still flies. It's covered in cobwebs, but it's still there. Nobody took it. Nobody stole it.
And apparently it was that the keys were still in it.
The keys were still in it. It wasn't locked. They got right into it. And they find the guy's speeder. He must have sunk down at some point. That's how they found him. And he had they said, oh, it's a Sith symbol. And you remarked that looked just like the Mercedes symbol. It's like those damn Germans.
Always knew they were evil. Just
yeah, my phone goes off every time somebody goes through the doorway. I need to snooze that.
there was something. Oh, did they explain how they got out of that cabin?
No, yes, she forced. That's when we got the first force healing. So the new power.
Oh, right, the snake thing.
The snake. She healed the snake. The snake did not immediately eat them all for some reason.
So apparently the snake was there when the guy and his speeder went down. That's why he died down there and couldn't get out.
No, well,
Or,
so the snake, when he got healed, he went out and it put a God damn it, it put a hole that they could crawl out of. That
so
happened.
the snake created the hole.
Snake created the hole.
Okay.
But why? I guess because the other dude couldn't force heal him, the snake said, well, then you can just stay here and rot. And that's how he died.
I wonder why the snake didn't eat him, or maybe the snake was a vegetarian.
Maybe he did eat him, but that was what was, he didn't digest the bones, and that's what was left. He pooped them out, and
Maybe. Don't know.
that dude was snake droppings. That's what he was.
Okay.
So
Anyway, moving on.
So then we get to, they come out and there's the transport there. So for some reason she goes out to the desert, and then Chewie goes and follows her.
I think she goes out to the desert, and I'm going to give them this one because she senses Rey.
Ren.
Ren, yeah, excuse me. Rey senses Ren.
Why is Ren there? Oh, I know, because they had seen each other through the Skype. The
a native
Skype.
had given her that necklace,
And the guy ripped it off.
and he ripped it off.
So apparently you can transport things through the Force that way.
And then he handed it over to his people, and they analyzed it and said,
Oh, that's
this
Planet
is...
Burning Man.
Yeah.
This movie is exhausting.
Well, the entire interaction between Kylo and Rey, every time they do this Force mind meld across the galaxy thing, is Kylo trying to figure out where Rey is.
Yeah, that happened several times. So then
Happened several times.
Chewie goes after her, and he immediately gets captured by the Knights of Ren, and they put him on a transport. Ren comes screaming down in his TIE fighter so that Rey can have her alley-oop.
Yeah.
At which point,
I'm the bestest ever.
I'm the bestest ever. The thing spins.
Bounces
The cockpit
across the
spins,
pound.
bounces across like 8 million times.
Explodes.
Explodes. And I mean explodes. And he walks out without a scratch. I'm like going,
He'll be fine.
you don't give a fuck anymore, do you, JJ? You just don't give a fuck. So they get to, so he comes out and Finn yells that Chewie is on that ship, so she tries to grab the ship that's taking off, which I had no idea the Force was that you could stop ships now. Even Vader couldn't do that I recall. So,
Yeah, Yoda could pick up an X-Wing, so.
yeah, that was not with the engines off. So then Ren is doing the same thing, and they're both fighting for it, and she flips out and lightnings it, and
Force
it explodes.
lightning, and it explodes.
And then Chewie is dead.
Chewie's dead.
Fake out death number
Figure
two.
out death number 2.
Because within 5 minutes, Chewie's alive.
Yep.
And it turns out there was a second transport. Now, I actually kind of paid attention because I knew this was coming. There were 2 transports. It doesn't make it any less cheap.
No.
They stick it in there in post-production. They knew that they had to do that after they decided that they were going to keep Chewie alive. So then they stick it in there in post-production because they could put there's no planning in this.
No.
It's reacting and then acting like, yeah, we knew what we were doing. They didn't know what they were doing throughout this whole thing. So I'm not
Wasn't
buying.
there a lot of reshooting done on this movie?
Yeah, well, after Force, yes, I think there was, but after The Last Jedi, things got really, I mean, there was so much backlash. And I don't know if you've seen the Rotten Tomatoes, but it was one of the earlier times. The Ghostbusters 2016 was the worst. But it was one of the earlier times where we saw a tomato meter like at 90% and an audience score of about 50, like a real disparity.
Yeah.
And that is happening constantly now. this disparity between the
Well, I
critics.
seem to recall reading or hearing that there were a ton of reshoots on Rise of Skywalker after test screenings were just like.
I don't doubt it. I don't remember, quite frankly.
I could be thinking about something else. I don't
There
know.
were a lot of reshoots. I know that they had all the Jedi from past movies were supposed to appear in that final scene, where all you heard was their voices, but they had brought them on set. I think they filmed something. So
I don't know.
yeah, it was a mess. So then they go to Kajimi.
What was Kajimi again?
That was the city where Carrie Russell was with her big helmet,
Oh, right. Gotcha.
gold
Okay.
helmet, red
Okay.
bodysuit.
That's a problem I have with these movies is all these, alien names of people and places. I can't keep them straight. You know, Kajimi.
You know,
I've never heard of Kajimi before.
Why was I able to keep the old ones straight just fine?
I don't know.
Endor, Tatooine, Hoth, Dagobah,
Yeah,
no problem.
no problem.
Tusken Raiders, Jawas, Hammerhead. I don't know. Cat's getting in the middle of this.
Yes, Missy.
So, anyway, they go to Kajimi because they don't know how to read the writing on the Sith.
Right. That's okay.
So, but
See,
3PO
3PO
does.
can read it, but he's not allowed to translate.
He's not allowed to translate it because
Reasons.
fuck you, that's why. And so they have to reset his memory.
Well, they can force him to read it, but doing so forces a reset of his memory.
Right. Wipes him. So that's fake out death number 3.
I loved how his eyes glowed red when he was
Reading the thing, yeah.
It's Sith, so you got to be evil. So red eyes.
You got to be evil for that. So he reads. He tells them the location of where the holocron is, which is on Endor,
Right.
which doesn't look like Endor, but fine. So they go to. So when they're there, for some reason, the Empire is there, or I say the Empire. It's the Empire. Who are we kidding? The First Order. Blah.
Yeah.
They're already there. They're already going through houses. I don't know why they're there. Unless it's just they happen to be there, just taking over a planet, and we just
That one girl said, you're the girl they're looking for, talking to Ray.
Yeah, but why are they going? Why did they know to go there?
Well, because fuck you. That's why. But the impression I got was they were there looking for Ray.
That's true.
From what the dialogue, but that, yeah. Why? How did they know?
I don't know. So okay, they get.
C-3PO is secretly an Imperial spy.
He
He
would
was
make a
built
lot
by
more
Vader.
He was built by Vader. It's true. This would make a lot more sense. So they go to Kajimi.
Do you wonder what the tracking device was on the Millennium Falcon that let them find Yavin?
3PO.
3PO.
Right. He's everywhere where they don't want to be. He's like Visa. They want to, so they get there, and then Kylo Ren shows up with his battleship, or he's already there. They do some more Force Skyping, and this is where it gets bizarre with the Force Skyping because they start fighting each other, and like at one point she slices open berries in the market, and you
He
see
does
the
or
berries.
she does, but they spill across. No, she's on his ship.
Right.
Right. And yeah, one of them, probably her. You're right.
Slices open the berries in the market
And they spread across the floor
of the ship.
But then, in a few seconds later, in a wider shot, they're not there anymore.
They're not there anymore. It disappeared. And then they cut the pedestal where Vader's mask is, and he sees it on the ground in the market.
And it had been established that she could see his surroundings, but he couldn't see hers.
No, what they said in Last Jedi was they could not see each other's surroundings. They could only see the person where they were.
But there was one scene where she could see his surroundings.
I don't think
know.
so.
Maybe I misunderstood
I
it.
don't think they could see each other's surroundings, but that
I,
each
I,
other's surroundings invaded each other's.
I know that he couldn't see hers, but I would swear that that dialogue was
I think it was the
indicated
same
that.
both sides, but that's the problem. It's a fucked up power.
Yeah.
So it turns out they're a dyad or something. It was said in The Last Jedi that this was happening because Snoke was making it happen, but now it's happening because fuck you. That's why. So I don't really get that. But anyway, so they had gone up on the ship to rescue Chewie.
Right.
They found out that no, yes. How did they find out Chewie was alive?
I have no idea.
Because if it had blown up, they would have assumed it would have blown up the dagger and everything. But then they had to go up there to get the dagger because they found out Chewie was alive. But I don't know how they found that out.
I don't know.
Maybe Kylo mentioned something during one of those Force Skype calls. Anyway, they go up there, get Chewie, they get the dagger, they get everything, and they escape on the Falcon. And that's
And they're shooting cameras out the whole time.
oh, that's right. They were shooting cameras out the whole time because that makes sense. You're not disguised as stormtroopers. You're not trying to keep up a ruse here. It's shooting the cameras out. They already know. All you're doing is basically setting
up off an alarm.
yeah.
Camera out in deck 3, corridor 18.
Yeah.
Oh, camera
must
out
be
in
where
deck
they
3,
are.
corridor 17. They're
We're following them as they go shooting out cameras. Yeah, it's a dumb. They shot out cameras in Star Wars. It's probably a good idea to put it in here. Well, no, it's not because of the situation they're in. You dumb fucks. So
at best, it's pointless.
And
At
that's-
best, it's pointless.
and that's when Ren tells her that she's a Palpatine, and that her parents were actually. So I guess
You realize that means that at some point in time, Palpatine had sex.
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Okay.
But I think what actually it is that the father is a failed Palpatine clone,
Okay.
and that he escaped and didn't want to be a part of any of this, and met her mother, and they had Rey. I
Okay.
think that's what it is, because if it's the way you're saying, I don't want to think about that. Good. That's right. I call it the Force. So they get to Endor,
Yeah.
which for reasons unknown, the landing gear is broken. There was nothing to suggest that something happened that would break the landing gear, but now it's broken, so
that
they have.
forced landing that he made.
That was
before.
why they made the forced landing.
No, the one where he's going way back, other movie, where he's clipping through the trees and he's trying to stay under the radar, and then he lands in the snow.
That was 2 movies ago.
Yeah, that should have damaged the landing gear.
It probably did.
So
But we've been through Last Jedi. They went through light speed skipping. They landed on planet Fern Gully. Then they left planet Fern Gully. They went to planet Burning Man.
Yeah.
No problems there.
Yeah.
They left planet Burning Man. They captured actually the Falcon. They had to go get the Falcon out of. That's why they went up to the ship. They went to get the Falcon out of the ship, and that's when they found out that Chewie was alive.
okay.
That's what it was. So they went and got the Falcon. Still fine, it just landed on the ship. When they get on the Falcon, they head over to Endor. That's when they say, oh, the landing gear's broken. Why? Fuck you, that's why. So that's when they have to make that
It was delayed failure from that forced landing back.
really delayed. So they go to Endor. They have to crash land on Endor.
I mean, you know how you can run over a nail and your tire doesn't go flat for.
Hate you. So they get to Endor. I want to finish this. This is hurting my brain.
I'll be good.
They get on. They look and they find the dagger. You have to stand. in just the right spot to line up the dagger over some debris
Well,
that's
it was a
shaped.
big chunk of the Death Star.
A big chunk of the Death Star that's shaped.
And I do mean a big chunk. I mean, not a small piece.
Okay, but it's in the ocean where waves are perfect storm size. And somehow
I don't ever remember seeing any bodies of water that large on Endor.
I thought it was the forest moon of Endor.
Yeah. I mean, we saw it from space, and I don't remember seeing any oceans.
It's a big lake.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. Or maybe the crashing piece of the Death Star created it, you know. It's a big crater.
Anything's possible.
Whatever. Carry on.
So they get to Endor. They're looking out. I just the dagger over this debris, and it fit the shape. It's like this thing has been sitting here for 30 years. You wouldn't have gotten a little misshapen by now. I don't know. It's a dumb thing. You'd have to be standing in one place, but you could, because of the angle of attack, you could stand in like 15 different places and point that thing in the wrong section.
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
It's not that fine of a. I would estimate that you could probably stand anywhere within, say, a mile of where she was standing, and
Yeah.
it would still line up pretty damn.
It would still point at the right place, you think?
Look at it this way: you're standing there. You're how many miles from that
You had to be
crash
at
site?
least a mile to 2 miles away.
How much detail are you going to get to tell you precisely where in that wreckage it is, the thing you're looking for?
Well, yeah, but they need a little bit more precision because they're basically going to the throne room, and that ain't that big, which is all shifting
that's
and
what I'm
turning
saying.
and
Even if you had a frickin' diagram that said it's here, the resolution on the picture that you're looking at, the place those arrows are pointing at, is going to be a pretty big fucking spot once you get there and start looking around. Were they pointing to this room down here?
assuming that it didn't collapse and crash into the ocean by now,
And
which apparently doesn't fill up to ocean depth.
also, it's the Death Star. The thing they're going to is not two-dimensional.
Oh yeah, it could have been 5 miles back that way.
Yeah, are you? It makes no sense.
It's
as
it's
a
terrible.
horrible plot point. But now you were talking about the water. Yeah.
Yeah, you wondered why it wasn't filled.
Oh, we skipped the part about her fabulous boating skills.
Oh yeah, well we haven't. No, I was getting to that.
Okay.
So she takes the boat. This
Yeah.
is a girl that's been raised on a desert planet, so clearly boating is a good skill to have.
Yeah.
And in plentiful supply on a desert
I mean,
planet.
not just a good boating skills, fantastic boating skills, because that was some dangerous water she was crossing.
I mean, I know the force and all, but okay. And again, we are in a universe where things fly easily. Why aren't you just flying over the water? Why?
Because fuck you.
Because fuck you. So she gets to the throne room. The door still works, which is pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
She didn't even have to shoot the lock.
Yeah, the thing's been blown up, crash landed on a planet, been sitting in the ocean for 30 years or whatever. Door still works.
Door still works. No lock shooting required. So she gets the holocron, and Ren. Well, first we see Evil Ray,
Yeah.
which is, I find that really pointless. There is nothing in any of these movies to suggest that she would be tempted by the dark side. Other than, she's a Palpatine now. Okay, fine, but there's nothing in anything that she's done that would suggest that she might be susceptible going to the
It
dark
was in
side.
Star Wars. We have to do it somewhere.
That's exactly right.
I mean, Luke had his moment in the tree. She has to have.
But it's dumb.
Well,
I'll give Ryan credit for doing something unusual and different in her moment in Last Jedi, where it's like all of her, like maybe she's just a bunch of clones, or when she has to see her parents, she just sees herself.
yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, maybe he's trying to say something here. I'm not trying to. God, I'm looking at The Last Jedi for a positive comparison here. This is how bad this movie is. So Ren gets there. We don't know how he managed to get to Endor, why he went to Endor, how he knew to follow her there. No idea how he knew that.
Don't know.
So he gets there and he destroys the holocron, which just makes the entire first 2/3 of this movie pointless.
And makes you wonder what that thing was made of that he was able to just go pink and just crush it like a styrofoam cup.
Styrofoam.
Styrofoam, okay. Which it probably was.
It probably was.
I mean, as a prop.
So everything is pointless. Everything is so far has been pointless. They have a big fight. She delivers a killing blow and then force heals him. He gets all weepy. He sees his dad. He throws away his lightsaber, his red lightsaber, renounces the dark side, I assume. In the meantime, Palpatine has been outfitting all the destroyers with a Death Star gun.
Yep.
Because now they've miniaturized them, and now I guess they want to send out these 8 billion ships out to destroy all planets that don't surrender.
Well, and that made no sense to me because the whole point of the Death Star was that it had to be big because it needed really big power plants to power that big planet-destroying gun.
Yeah.
You know, it had to be big because it needed the power plants.
Right.
Apparently, they've got their miniaturization shit down pat so they can cram those power plants to power that big fucking gun in a Star Destroyer size package now. In addition to the engines that move the Star Destroyer and, you know, crew quarters and all that.
And I guess they're going to blow up. I guess they're going to just position a Star Destroyer over every planet and say, step out of line or we'll blow you up.
Yep.
Which is, at some point, you're going to run out of planets. You know? I mean, it's just, that's not. I get ruling by fear, and with one Death Star, it kind of makes sense because you really don't need to destroy more than one.
As long as word gets out.
Word gets out, and you don't need to waste that many resources putting in outfitting all your Star Destroyers that way. But, you know.
Like we kind of had the conversation yesterday where we compared it to nuclear weapons and in our
deterrent.
world. You know, you don't want to use them because
it's a waste of resources.
Well, it's a waste of resources. Yeah, I won the war, assuming that you didn't lose it as well. But the territory I conquered is useless to me because nobody can live there because, one, it's radioactive, and two, it's glass.
So, okay, so she takes Ren's TIE fighter and she goes back to Octo. And in Octo, she burns the TIE fighter and she throws her lightsaber into it, at which point Luke the Force Ghost catches it. So we've established that Force Ghosts can use lightning, as Yoda did, to blow up trees.
They can interact with physical objects.
And they can interact with physical objects. So, you know, of course, everybody, and I don't think we're the first ones to say this, come on, guys, it's time to get your asses in the game.
Yeah.
What's this I can't interfere bullshit? Seems like you can quite well. So Luke raises the X-Wing out of the water with the requisite Yoda music because, remember, the Empire Strikes Back, and convinces Rey to get back into the fight. So she takes the X-Wing and she uses the Sith holocron that was on Ren's Kylo's ship, which fortunately didn't burn. Amazing, since we saw that you could just crush it easily.
But apparently they're fireproof.
Fireproof is okay.
Fireproof styrofoam.
Fireproof styrofoam. Consistency? Fuck consistency. We don't need no stinking consistency here. So you go and she goes through the whatever it is to get to Exegol.
Yeah, we never did figure out what it was that they had to fly through to get there.
You have to fly through red. And red is very tough. Well, we find out later it's very tough to go in one direction on Exegol.
Apparently.
You can't, I mean, they need the antenna to launch all the Star Destroyers that are already launched and floating, but they can't go up, apparently. They need the antenna to go up. Up is very difficult.
Up is very difficult.
I don't know if you knew that, but
Well, down is easy.
down's easy. You just turn off the engines. Yeah, but
Up is difficult.
up is difficult. You got to go straight up, and that's yeah. Even Avengers, when the guy was like they'd lost their engines,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, get us out over water. It's like, well, we don't have our navigation. He goes, is the sun up? Yeah. Then point it in that window. Can you go up? Go up. So you and I, at this point, we got into a horrible conversation about car wrecks and rendering plants that I really don't want to get into.
We don't need to talk about that.
But other than, I just want to point out that we were just, we were, it's kind of like the last leg of a marathon at that point. We're just trying to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
We're not enjoying ourselves in the slightest. So why couldn't you just shoot the tower? They had to do a ground. They were going to do a ground campaign on the tower because that's what they did in Return of the Jedi.
Maybe it was shielded. I don't know.
They didn't say it was.
I don't know.
So they're going to do a ground thing on the tower. So the tower turns off and they switch it to the lead ship, which apparently can go up. It has the magic ability to go up that the others do not. And so everybody has to use the other
Follow me, guys.
Follow me. So they get onto the lead ship, and that's where we get the space horses.
Yeah. And that was something that I always thought was really stupid because everybody called them space horses, which led me to think that the ships were actually, in space.
Right.
But it turns out they're not. They're
in
hovering.
atmosphere.
They're in atmosphere. So not as bad as I was led to believe but still stupid.
It's still very, very stupid. So if they did destroy that tower on that lead ship, but they had changed their plan because they turned off the other tower. I was never clear why they couldn't turn back on the tower below.
Because the guy that had the keys was
on
the lead ship.
I guess.
I don't know.
Palpatine wants to be killed so that he can send his soul into her body.
Wants to inhabit, and who wouldn't, man?
I'd inhabit her body for about 7 minutes. 8 if I'm feeling good. The
Sucks getting old.
It does. So so that was the only thing I think I kind of liked in this, but mostly for the fact that it kind of finally made sense why Palpatine kept saying, strike me down to Luke. Because, well, if he does, you'd be kind of fucked, wouldn't you? I mean, I don't understand why you want to be struck down. Now, Vader, of course, stopped him, and maybe that was the plan and everything, but I always thought that was a little weak. But if his plan was, strike me down and I'm going to become you, then all of that kind of makes a little more sense.
Slightly, yeah.
A little more to me. That was the tiny little glimmer of gold dust that I found in this giant steaming pile of dinosaur shit.
You had to go up to here into the pile to find it.
Yeah. So when Ren comes, and I'm not sure where he got a TIE fighter to get to Exegol.
Yeah.
Fuck you, that's why.
Avis.
Yeah. Avis.
They're evil, right? I mean,
Yeah, from what I hear, yes. So we did have a shoot the gun pointed at the deck.
yeah.
That's what Finn did to the Star Destroyer.
Because, they did it in Return of the Jedi.
They did Return of the Jedi, so you got to do it again.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing like using your enemy's weapons against them if you can.
No, but again, we're just doing what we did before. So then Ren comes, and that's when Palpatine changes up his plan because he realizes, hey, the two of you, I could heal myself. Which I kind of don't mind. If a better option comes to you, adjust. That makes sense. And so he does. And they're screwed. And then Ren tries to get up, and Palpatine throws him into a canyon. And Rey has to connect with all the Jedi to get up.
Right.
And she holds up her lightsaber, and he starts hitting her with the Force lightning. Well, first he did the Force lightning straight up.
Right.
While they were on the ground, right?
They kill all the ships.
Right.
Yeah.
So now they're all down. They're all.
And we come back to that point about,
Are you sure the dark side is weaker than the lights? We sure? Yeah. He's taking out an entire fleet here. And then he has to turn. Then he has to turn his attention away, and hit her with the lightning. And at that point, Poe says, there's just too many of them. And that's when the most ridiculous shot in Star Wars, in my opinion, when Lando says, but there's more of us.
Oh.
And they hit the thing, and there are so many ships, it's beyond stupid. It's just, it's supposed to be a big triumphant moment, and I'm just laughing. The first time I saw it, I started laughing. It's so ridiculous.
It looked like
a parody.
A parody, and just, it looked like a scene out of Coruscant.
It looked worse than Coruscant.
It's all these different, and they're packed so close together.
Yeah. Home of the mid-air collision.
I mean, one old-fashioned nuke detonated in the center of that cluster would have fucked up everybody's day. I'm pretty sure the Empire still has the ability to make nukes, don't they?
I don't think they do nukes.
The equivalent.
I don't think so.
They got something that
proton torpedoes
goes
boom. But
I don't know. But yeah.
So they all so we have the giant battle up there that's ridiculous. And then Rey holds the lightsaber to deflect the lightning, and then we find out that in order to defeat Palpatine, she needs two lightsabers. And I forgot, on Ahch-To, Luke gave her Leia's lightsaber,
Right, Leia's
which
lightsaber.
he apparently had hidden on Ahch-To all that time. So she uses two lightsabers. And Palpatine...
Apparently she had given it to Luke before Luke went away, and he just packed it in his bag.
That was a chance to have the deep fake moment with them too. Yeah. So she crosses the two lightsabers. And Palpatine still doesn't know the secret of, if lightning is that you are producing is coming back to your face, stop producing the lightning. He didn't learn that from Sith.
Well, apparently it is lightning, so apparently it's one of those deals. It's like there was a time when I was much younger, I got into a situation where I basically electrocuted myself, and it makes your muscles tense up. You can't let go, So
this is force lightning.
Well, it tenses up your force, and you can't stop.
So his face, he blows off his own face. Why his spirit doesn't go into Rey, I don't know.
Because fuck you.
That's not a thing. So then everybody gets back to Planet Fern Gully. Empire is finally defeated, I guess. Rey dies. Kylo Ren heals her. Now, when Rey dies, her body doesn't disappear.
Yeah.
But then when Kylo Ren dies, his does. And they have a big smooch out of nowhere for no reason.
We've got a couple notes here that we didn't mention.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Okay.
These are things before that. Then we get to Planet Fern Gully, the big celebration. We have the lesbians kissing because, virtue signal.
Right.
Chewie gets his medal.
Yeah.
Which is apropos of nothing in the Star Wars universe and just means something to us because memes. And then...
What's this note about no two skeletons in the doorway?
So then we wondered why Leia took so long to disappear after she died. So then, Leia, the reason why Leia still had the medal. She got it in the divorce.
Yeah.
That's what we said. And then Rey goes back to Tatooine.
Right. Right. Okay. Now I
And
remember.
she takes over the farmstead, which is apparently has stayed that way since Luke left in A New Hope. And I wonder if the two skeletons, the burnt out skeletons, are still in the doorway. Probably would have gotten removed by scavengers, but maybe not. I don't know.
You know, they were pretty toasted. Not much meat left on those
No,
bones.
not much to eat. So, and we know that one skeleton stayed there in the dune that Throopio
Yeah.
went by for a long time. So I would assume they would still be there. So she's got a surprise coming to her.
Start cleaning out the sand dunes in the
Oh,
doorway.
Jesus, Luke! What the fuck? What the fuck did you do on the way out? And then she says Rey Skywalker, to which I say, fuck you.
Yeah, that was just bad.
So that was our trip. That was your trip
That
through.
was my trip through. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I owed you. So, okay. So the only other question I could think of to ask is, what was worse, the sequels or the prequels?
Definitely the sequels.
You think the sequels are worse?
I think the sequels are worse. The prequels suffered from, I'm going to call, poor directing. But
Poor
they had
directing
they
and
had
too much. Yeah, definitely with the two shots, reverse shot, walking to a window, that kind of
the
stuff.
editing was iffy, but they had a story. They had a coherent.
Did a coherent story. There was things that didn't make sense. There was a. I always thought the prequels had a concept that was good.
Yeah.
The
It was
execution
basically
was bad.
The rise of Vader is basically
Yeah.
what I think of as the prequels.
Yeah,
And then the original trilogy would be the
the redemption of Vader,
redemption of Vader.
or redemption of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah,
if you want to
redemption
look
of
at it that
Anakin Skywalker, and then
way. The sequels have no point.
no point. They've I forget who it was.
They have no goal. They have no
Somebody-
story goal in mind.
I think it was the actress that plays Rey.
Yeah.
Said in an interview here a couple weeks ago that they didn't know where they were going.
They didn't.
There was no plan. They were
And-
basically
and
making
Lucas
it up as they
didn't-
went along.
Lucas didn't have a full plan when he built out the original trilogy. He did, but he didn't. And they had to figure that out as they went.
But I think he developed a plan, you know.
And he worked with this was before he was George Lucas, Star Wars.
Yeah.
So they were still
And he had
building this.
prepared
He
a
prepared
blueprint.
some things, a blueprint. Yeah.
Well, before when he sold Lucasfilm to Disney, it came with
For the sequel trilogy,
For the
yes.
sequel trilogy, that sale came with a blueprint that he had drawn up. This is the way the next three should go. And Disney went, oh, looks good.
Yeah, they tossed it in the dumpster. So I don't know if they. I know that he did not have a plan with the original trilogy.
Well, the
per
original
se.
trilogy, you know,
He did and he didn't. Like, the Death Star was supposed to blow up at the end of the third film. But he didn't know if he was going to make a third film. So he ended up moving that into the end of the first film. And then Empire, he had good writers, he had a good director.
yeah, Empire is probably the best Star Wars movie.
It will always be.
It always will be.
But there was a logical progression and deepening of the characters, and they had some guts going the way they did.
Yeah,
Return of the Jedi is
I like it.
I like it, but it is not as good as the other two, and the reason being is because Leia and Han's story, they've already arced. There's nothing left to them. They have to give them things to do, but they stuck Luke's story. They stuck the landing with Luke and Vader story, and that's what makes that movie work. There's parts of it that don't very well. There's moments that I don't like, and another Death Star. They couldn't come up with something different there, but the
better.
emotional arc of Luke Skywalker works perfectly.
No better Death Star this time with Emperor included.
Yeah. But they didn't. They did a pretty good job with sticking the landing. Now, then you get to the prequels, and now Lucas is worshipped as a god by a new generation of Gen Xers like me,
Yeah.
who are working on this movie, and nobody, everybody looks. You've seen the Plinkett stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where everybody looks scared and nobody wants to, and he's got total control over everything. He's gone a little power mad about the whole thing, and a little lazy because he's older and everything else. And so you get Senate
And
scenes and dumb stuff.
He had. That was when CGI was still fairly new.
Yeah, he's breaking new ground
it
with
was
it.
getting
but
real. It was that was when CGI was getting really good. Let's put it that way.
Starting to,
Starting to, and he went a little over the top with it.
way over the top.
Way over the top with it.
Well, he didn't build enough practical sets. He did enough Phantom Menace. Oddly enough, Phantom Menace is probably the best looking of them.
Yeah, I
Because
actually
there's
have
a-
a hard time remembering the second two. I've got a pretty good.
Exactly, because the second two feel like you're on a, and that's what I feel like a lot of the sequel. It's better, but there's still a lot of the sequel. I feel like it's on a little tiny soundstage with green screen too much.
I've got a pretty good memory of what the Phantom Menace, plot was, but and how the story went.
Yeah.
The second two, I kind of sort of know. I mean, what happened, but I couldn't describe scenes to you.
I think the Phantom Menace is the best tech. When I say technically, I'm talking about shot composition, editing,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's more practical sets, and he uses more interesting camera movements in there. It's not great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend the Phantom Menace.
Right.
But when you get to Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith,
I
it's
really
either-
liked Liam Neeson
Yeah, he was great.
in that movie.
But they were able to because they had sets, they were able to make some interesting shot compositions and do things in different ways. When you get to Attack of the Clones and the Revenge of the Sith, everything's on a green screen. There's very, very little practical sets. So
Okay.
everything is either giant, crazy CGI action fest with crazy camera movements and all kinds of stuff, or when they're shooting live action, it's shot, reverse. It's as boring as what we're doing here.
Okay.
Shot, reverse shot, two shot, that's it. People sitting on a couch, people talking with each other. That there is nothing interesting when you're watching people talk. And since when they're talking they're all monotone, it's even more boring. So the sequels are much more interesting in shot composition and things like that. They do a much better mix of practical effects with CGI. So technically, they're better movies as far as artistically.
Right.
And I'm only talking about when you frame a shot, when you make a shot look
Right.
interesting, lighting, things like that. I'm not talking about story, character, plot. Those parts are much better, and of course, the effects are much better because you're 20 years
Right.
beyond. But the stories themselves are so nonsensical. The characters are unlikable. The content is terrible. It's worse than the prequels in that sense.
They're just horrible.
Yeah.
I think I said last night. I may have already said it here. I can't remember. The first one, the Force Rises. What was it?
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. That one, I really didn't think it was that bad.
It's the best of all of them.
Yeah, it's the best of the three. I just
Damning with faint praise.
damning with faint praise. I just thought it was boring.
Well, and it doesn't get any better as you watch the rest of them. It makes that movie worse.
I didn't really feel like it damaged the Star Wars brand.
No,
that
Last
much.
Jedi damaged it.
It
Rise of Skywalker was just flailing wildly. I can't even be mad at Rise of Skywalker. It's a panic button movie. That's what it is. Somebody hit the panic button, and everybody was shooting this movie with piss running down their pants the whole time because they knew Star Wars was broken. It was broken. Last Jedi broke it. Rise of Skywalker is an attempt, a reaction to fix the unfixable. And the only way to fix any of this is to pretty much retcon the three out of existence and do a new one.
And supposedly that's if the Lucas followers, that's the word I want.
Fan
at-
base. Oh, you mean in Lucasfilm?
In Lucasfilm, the ones that are Lucas loyalists win the currently happening Civil War. That's probably what'll happen. If the Kennedy faction stays in power, it probably won't.
Well, the best way to win that is probably success. And right now, Filoni and Favreau have success under their belt.
That's
Kennedy does not.
that's the if you pay attention to people like Doomcock, and I think Critical Drinkers had a word or two to say about
Yeah.
it. It sounds like the Kennedy faction is probably going to lose, but they haven't lost yet.
No, and it's really going to come down to how scared are they in terms of
They're really in danger of a stockholders lawsuit if they're not careful.
that's the only way it's going to happen, because right now it really comes down to how much of are you a coward at being called a misogynist on Twitter
Or an ist or a phone
or a racist or whatever. How scared are you about the virtue signaling, or are you willing to say this is stupid? There is going to be no Star Wars or no nothing if we, because I mean Disney's not in good shape right
we
now.
spent $4.5 billion for this property,
Right.
and we got to make our money back.
And then you throw a pandemic into the works.
Yeah.
They're making no money on their Disney cruise lines. They're making no money in their parks. Nobody's going to the theaters. The only thing that's keeping them afloat right now is Disney Plus.
Yeah.
That's their moneymaker. And right now they've got the Mandalorian.
Maybe toys a little bit, but is
I don't
anybody
think-
buying the toys?
I don't think so. Maybe the classic stuff, but very little. So they got the Mandalorian, and they've got.
Of course, they lose a lot of their merchandising when they close the theme parks, too.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
You can't even go to the Disney store in the mall because you got to wear your mask, and most of the malls are closed, right?
Walmart carries Disney stuff, but
They do, but
the vast majority of Disney merchandising is at the theme parks or at other locations that Disney
yeah,
controls.
I'm sure you can buy a lot of it online, but I just buying a Disney crap, you're most likely to buy it at the theme park, or if you're like at a mall and you go to a Disney
Or
store.
you're on one of their cruise ships.
On one of their cruise ships, you're probably not going to be staying at home online and thinking in Amazon, I'm going to buy myself a Star Wars. Some people, sure.
Well, I'm not talking just Star Wars stuff. I'm talking Disney stuff.
MCU, Disney, whatever.
MCU, the classic, I want a Mickey Mouse hat, whatever.
So the Star Wars,
Did I tell you my Fantasia 2020 DVD crapped out on me?
no.
Yeah, I watched Fantasia a couple weeks ago. I wanted to listen to the music on it. I didn't actually sit down and watch it, but I threw it in, listened to that, and a couple days later, I'm going to listen to Fantasia 2020. Threw it in my computer. The computer didn't even
Fantasia
recognize there was a 2000. Excuse me.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, is there a new
not
one that
20,
came out?
2000. But I threw it in the computer. The computer didn't even recognize that there was a disc in there.
Oh,
So,
is it all
okay.
scratched up?
I couldn't see a thing wrong with it. It looked pristine.
Put
it in the DVD.
Discs
I put
do
it in the
last
Blu-ray.
only long.
I put it in the Blu-ray player. The Blu-ray player recognized that there was a disc there, but it wouldn't play it.
Yeah, that's the problem. Physical media does wear out after a certain amount of time. One of the things I do is I put it on Plex and store it that way. So I have the media, but I can still have the convenience of streaming.
I've thought about setting up a Plex server, and I just can't be bothered.
Yeah, it depends on whether or not you want to go through all the bullshit, but it's not that hard.
But I was really surprised, because when you said usually if a disc degrades, there's visible signs of
I'm
it.
wondering, I have a copy of the original trilogy from 1991 on VHS when they still used beautiful art, the poster art and all that.
I've got a
I gotta
copy-
wonder if any of that works.
I've got a copy on VHS of the original trilogy after the re-release.
Yeah, I've got those too. I've got a copy, too many copies.
I don't have a copy of the original. And I think it really, as far as the media VHS goes, I think you've got more of a problem finding a VHS player
Yeah.
than you do.
I actually have one that hooks up to a USB.
Do you?
Yeah, I use it to offload some of my old tapes.
I've got one, I assume it still works. It did the last time I used it for anything, that I bought specifically for copying VHS to DVD. One of those dual players, and they were both writers, and you could stick a tape in and say copy, and it'd do it as long as it wasn't copy protected. It had the circuitry in there to say, oh, you can't copy this one. But I bought it for this one specific purpose. You see on that shelf over there, on the
Okay, wait a minute. We're still recording here.
oh,
So let me
you can edit all that out.
yeah, we're gonna edit all that out. So let me finish this up. So I think we understand where we're at. I'm glad
Yeah.
you watched it with me. I'm glad you've seen it. You can suffer with the rest of us. So thank you all for watching. You can visit us. First of all, like, share, please share, subscribe. We definitely could use the more you share, the more this content gets out if you enjoyed it. And even if you didn't, please go ahead and hit like or hit dislike twice. If you want to visit us, we're at lastmovieoutpost.com. You can email us, contact us at lastmovieoutpost.com. And you can visit us at Twitter at Movie Outpost and at Facebook /Last Movie Outpost. And I believe we're also on, well, we're everywhere. But if you go to www.lastmovieoutpost.com, you'll see all the links that you can go to. And we have new news up there every single day. We have reviews, streaming news, interesting columns that you won't find anywhere else, a lot about Hollywood history and that sort of thing. And of course, we've got our YouTube channel, so subscribe. Thank you very much. Fuloydo, thank you for being here.
It's my house.
In
I
your
have
house?
to be here.
And thank you for being for letting me take your time up. And we will.
I won't say I had fun, but it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Oh,
So
thank you very much. Yeah, you know, when you mix enough liquor, anything can be fun if you do it right.
true.
So, and we did. So
And
thank you very much.
If you look at it in the Mystery Science Theater 3000
That's
mindset,
it. Yeah, that's
it.
it.
Was,
So.
it was good.
So we hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we will see you all on the next video, which I do have some ideas on that.
I'm here.
All right, we will do that. Take care. Please come by, visit us.